This episode is brought to you by CBS All Access. If you don't already subscribe to CBS All Access, please use our affiliate link by going to talkthroughmedia.com/CBS. Using our affiliate link gives us a little credit, which helps us to keep bringing you great content. U.S. residents only. Hello, and welcome to the season finale episode of the Star Trek Picard Cast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
And I believe this is episode 14, and we will be covering season 1, episode 10, in Arcadia Ego, part 2. But before we get started with that, we've got some feedback for last week's episode, so we're going to open hailing frequencies. All right, so we've got a couple of voicemails. The first is our good friend Fred from the Netherlands with his first of 2 voicemails this week. This one will be for last week's episode. Here we go.
Hello, Brian and Ruthie, and all listeners to Talk Through Media. This is Fred from the Netherlands with some feedback for Star Trek Picard, Season 1, Episode 9. Last week I was talking about the fact that I couldn't go to the William Shatner Wrath of Khan show in Amsterdam and that it possibly would be postponed or I would get my money back. Well, they already gave me my money back. So on one hand that is good, but if I will ever see William Shatner live now is a big doubt. He's 88 and I'm in the coronavirus country. Okay, about episode 9. I will give this episode a 47 out of 52, which is roughly a 9.2 out of 10. Although I also had some negative points, and one of those negative points was that Evangora, so Elnor, is almost not in the episode. Every time Picard meets him again, it's only very short, very brief, and then they split up again. And we don't get a lot of this Elnor. And I just wonder if this is because the actor is so young, doesn't have a whole IMDb track record that, well, he's just not ready to do big roles. Whereas, on the other hand, another very young actress, Isa Briones, is in a lot of scenes and even now doubled up with her, well, evil twin sister, Goldilocks, Goldie Skin. It gives me a very lore data-like feeling, these two together. Of course, for my Orphan Blackheart, it's good to have some shots where they are both in one scene. Talking about lore, when Seven appeared above there in that Borg cube, looking down on the landing party, this reminded me very much of the scene where Lore also looked down on a Next Generation landing party where he was the leader of some disconnected Borg drones. And talking about landing parties, this stranded La Sirena and the whole bunch going toward this Coppelius station is good old-fashioned TOS and the Next Generation Star Trek. Going down to a planet, doing first contact, finding a small community there, etc. Talking about that community, I really wonder if they got a lot of twins to act there, or it is just double roles like Soji and Sutra. My wife made a remark during watching and seeing the landing party entering Coppelius Station, where the people were just walking on the streets and doing their Tai Chi or whatever, that they were not busy with the enormous earthquake caused by a Borg cube that bumped into this planet. That should have given quite some earthquake, and they're just doing their things there. I think she has a point. especially if you see later how large this Borg cube is. Last topic, because then my time is up, is I really wonder how that love between Ruthie and Picard is. Is that a romantic love? It looked a little bit like that. Or is it more a kind of father-daughter-like love? Interesting. Greetings, all the best, Fred from the Netherlands.
Well, thank you so much, Fred. And this is the first of two. Unfortunately, we got that one a little too late for us to put it in last week. But yeah, so one thing I thought was funny, and it's funny how, 1 week can change everything, but he says he's in a coronavirus country. And I'm like thinking, everywhere is a coronavirus country. And the last time I checked, the United States has gone number one with a bullet and has passed both China and Italy for the number one. What a great thing to be number one in.
Well, we like to be number one. So,
Yeah. According to Wikipedia. I don't know if that's the most up to date, but anyway.
Well, my city has instituted, I think the state has as well, instituted a stay-at-home order. Apparently, the city in which I live, which is not the largest city in the state, has the largest number of confirmed cases.
Oh, joy.
So, we are staying at home and only running out to buy ice cream.
Yes, how did that go?
Well, found what I wanted in a single stop. So I ran out and ran home.
And did you get toilet paper too?
No, I got toilet paper before that started. I don't know why, but I didn't think about ice cream at the time that I went out on Wednesday. My normal shopping is to buy a huge thing from Sam's because that lasts me for several months and then I don't have to go again. And it was about time for me to do that. And then suddenly the whole world was buying toilet paper.
Yeah, they are definitely, toilet paper is in high demand. The paper companies are probably doing well in the stocks.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Well, in any case.
Cool.
So, yeah. And Fred was thinking about your question and thinking that's a good question. I looked it up on IMDb, and at least two of the sets were twins. Arcana and Saga, and Rune and Codex, who, in case you did not know their names, were the two baldy guys. So there you go. There were at least two sets of twins.
Interesting. All right. So now we have our second voicemail for last week is from John from Las Vegas. And I believe he's a first-time caller.
Hello, this is John from Las Vegas calling about the Picard podcast. A little feedback about episode 9, part 1. I really like the special effects. The flowers in space were not just another ship having to be facing the same direction. I like the tricorder that they found was very analogous to Picard himself as something that's old and maybe a little run down, but still, gets the job done. Not good enough. Opening credits, Brent Spiner kind of ruined the entrance he made a few minutes later. Kind of spoiled it, really. What I really don't like is the big, almost with little payoff. Like last week when Seven became the queen for a second, and then all the Borgs were just sucked out, and you're left with nothing. Okay, I'm done. And this week, the Borg ship coming through into the fight, it's messing people up. It's like Big Brother just got called in onto the playground. No, it's just fell stuff down to the planet and lands. Yeah. So, last thoughts, is Nick more like Kylo Ren with Soji and Ezra, or is he more like Jaime Lannister with Cersei, his sister, Narissa? Not really sure. That's my thoughts. Thank you very much, y'all. First time, long time. Love listening to y'all. I have to wait 6 days to wait. But I wait every time just to hear y'all. It's very good.
All right. Thank you very much, John, for your voicemail. And one interesting thing that I wanted to bring up the Kylo Ren versus Jaime Lannister vibe.
Definitely Jaime Lannister.
Yes. Although there is a bit of that emo Kylo Ren in him. A little bit.
Yeah, but Kylo Ren and Rey weren't brother and sister, so.
That's true. Okay, well, let's move on to our written feedback. We've got first point from Brian from Hawaii. He says, I was struck by how low you rated this episode. I criticized the same elements you did, but was much more lenient in my rating. Having said that, upon further reflection, I think I'll lower my rating to a 9.0. Yes.
Well, you're going to be struck by this week, too.
Uh-oh. Nick from Arizona is next.
All right, Nick from Arizona says, hey, thank you for an amazing episode. Narek I don't know, because Narissa pronounces it Narek, and Soji said Narek, so I guess it's just your best guess, however you want to pronounce his name. Is a thorny part of the show, but really a lot of things are. If you think about it, the challenging elements are connected to things in TNG that made that series really good. Picard feels off for much of the season, like he's not using all of the empathy, experience, care, and composure, and we know he can rally. In a TNG episode like Darmok, it's not unusual for Picard to make mistakes initially, whether due to over-reliance on Starfleet protocol, impatience, or incomplete information. His initial actions seem to make everything worse. However, his openness to alternative views allows for the crew to course correct as they learn more. In old-school episodic TV, that all happens in a single episode. Now, that story happens during the course of the 10 episodes of the season. That's a good point. Something I may not have thought of before. He says, it's an ensemble. You can't find someone who loves every Star Trek show exactly the same or every crew member. But the ensemble element is key in every Star Trek show to date, including Star Trek Picard, and gives diverse audience members different characters to root for and learn about over time. Discovery wouldn't be the same without Tilly or Saru, or even Owo or Detmer. Voyager changed immensely with the introduction of 7 of 9. Odo and Quark proved remarkably impactful for many people. Jurati bugged some people right away for seeming too goofy or awkward, and then lost most of the rest of her support when she killed Maddox. But the intensity of that performance is startling, and I actually feel a powerful connection to her. A lot of people felt a real kinship with Daj and never liked Soji as much. The Rios holograms ended up distracting us from the mysterious captain until the season was ready to give more detail to his personal history. Elnor bugs people, or they think he's hilarious or badass. I'm a little weirded out by the way there's not a single character who seems consistently self-confident in the show, but that's part of the comedy and the tragedy. As you say, a synthetic mind meld of some kind to retrieve the vision is possible to imagine in different versions. Seeing as we don't know exactly how it was accomplished, why not just assume that this synthetic being may be the most advanced example of technology that we've ever seen in Star Trek, a biological synthetic, figured out something that worked? What's to say that Vulcans or Romulans aren't themselves biological synthetics? Why is it okay for Spock to mind meld with something like an animal or a machine, but it's not okay for the animal or machine to reach out to Spock? I see what you're trying to say there. However, she's not the most advanced synthetic. I don't think she's the biological synthetic. Sutra was not the... Soji was the second generation, not Sutra. So if Soji had done it, maybe, but I don't know. And I didn't necessarily like the Spock to mind meld with a machine thing. An animal I'm fine with, but a machine, no. I mean, an animal, I think that would be kind of weird because, I think it is kind of weird because they don't necessarily think the same way that we do. And I'm not sure that their brains could be.
Now, if an animal mind melded with us.
Yeah, that would not be cool. I don't think that would be, well, anyway, no. But I don't know that a complex mind like humans could comprehend most animal minds. I don't know.
Didn't Spock mind meld with the horse or something like that?
Well, I know he did with a whale.
Right. A whale. Yes.
But I don't know. I didn't really care for the whole mind melding with a machine thing either. So no, I don't think it's okay that the reverse is happening either. I'm sorry. I just don't.
Well, to your point, I think I would have less problems with it if it were Soji doing it, because I agree with you that Sutra was most likely not a biological synthetic. So I would agree with you on that point. I mean, I don't know. It's all science fiction anyway. I've kind of softened on it a little bit, having a week away, but it's still probably my least favorite thing of that whole episode. And I wish they hadn't done it. If I had to rate it again, I would give it a 6. I have raised it slightly after watching it another time. And seeing the visuals of the episode, I have to give it a slightly higher mark. But it's still not my favorite. It's definitely my least favorite of the whole bunch.
I'm not adjusting my rating.
Nope. What was that one character say? We have spoken.
Oh, I have spoken.
I have spoken, yes. Sorry, wrong franchise.
Yeah, thou shalt not cross the streams. That was a good show, though.
Yes. Edwin from Arizona is next. I'm surprised y'all really didn't like this, but it's all good. Entertainment is subjective. It's good to have different opinions and hear out other people's point of view. I admire your honesty and views. Yes, I do agree, lots of hand waving, but it didn't bother me. I guess the mind meld got to everyone like The Last Jedi all over again. LOL. The only thing that I got hung up on is Picard's comment about Hugh and the eye stab. Guys, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Edwin. You're awesome too.
Then he also says, I believe Elnor will get to see a cat he promised in episode 3. Actually, it was episode 4, I think, but I don't think he did see a cat. Well, no, maybe he did. Because they had that spot
he did.
too.
They didn't show it.
No, they didn't.
I know, but that was disappointing. That could have been a huge payoff.
Oh, man. I'm going to have to put that in my nose. I didn't even think of that.
Yep, that was another missed opportunity in this season. Yeah, I was surprised I didn't like it either, but I had a very visceral dislike reaction, so anyway, I'm glad that you enjoyed it though, so that's good. All right, James the Augmented Sailor says, yeah, so completely agree with everything you said, guys. The more that episode sunk in, the less I liked it, especially the damn meld. To me, initially, it was like, meh, not a great episode, but not a bad episode. And then I rewatched and had things sink in some more. And yeah, it's the drizzle and shit. Oh, gosh. James, you have a way with words. All right. He goes on to say, it had its good points that were already gone over, but mostly it was a show. I'm really hoping that they pull one out of their asses and give us an amazing finale, but they've really written themselves into a corner this season. I honestly don't see how they're going to wrap everything up in one final episode either. My updated rating for the penultimate is a 6. Not to take away from anyone that really enjoyed it, I just saw the same things that Brian and Ruthie saw. I really think when all is said and done, they set everything up to be great and then somehow had a collective brain fart on how to conclude things. I mean, seriously, I think the arc that a lot of us postulated would have been 10 times better. Having the Romulans be the inadvertent creators of the Borg, the admonition being a warning from the ancient Romulans to their descendants, which would explain the social constructs of Romulan culture. I see what you're saying there, but the ancient Romulans were Vulcans. So... All right, he goes on to say, I think an ultimate arc such as that would have been better for fans, gives us the much longed for Borg origin story, and would tie things up neatly. Instead, it seems like we may get a swerve ending that honestly negates the necessity of the Borg even being in the show. I mean, think about it. If Borg tech wasn't used in the Synth's creation and the admonition had nothing to do with Borg, then WTF are they even doing in this show? That entire plotline becomes filler if it doesn't culminate into the overall arc of it all. IDK, having a few days to really mull it over in my head makes me very worried for my Thursday morning viewing experience. I'm on the ledge, guys. Anyway, great cast as always, guys, even if the show itself may have shot itself right in the face. Well, I'm glad that you're liked our show. No, we were really negative. Yeah.
Well,
I would have much preferred a Borg origin story, and somehow the admonition tied into like a Beware the Borg thing that we were like, oh, that was a little too late. That would have been, I don't know, somehow better to me, but
yeah,
I don't know.
it would have been better. I don't care that much for the Roto-Rooter alien synths will come in and fix your little organic problem kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really care. I mean, where are these things coming from?
Yeah.
They're outside of space-time, so I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, it just
And what stops them from, well, this is more into this episode, but the door was open. Why couldn't they come knocking again?
I don't know why they didn't get through. The door was open. Why didn't they get through?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I don't know. Anyway, let's carry on with last week.
Ken from Chicago is next. He says, at Picard Cast, Picard season finale prediction, after the pew-pews and punches of the climax, Picard gives a moving speech that changes hearts and minds and saves the galaxy. While celebrating, he collapses, leading at last to the arrival of Captain #Beverly Crusher. Thumbs up emoji, Spock salute emoji, or Vulcan salute emoji. I can never decide what to call that. I know a friend of mine that would be very happy to see that. I wonder what she's going to think about Picard being an android, because she always said #Picard needs Bev.
Mm-hmm.
She's a big, Rebecca is a big fan of that relationship. So don't know what she thinks about this. And there's quotes here. Jean-Luc, did we not agree when we got married I would work in space and you would stay at home? Sorry, my love. Well, we'll discuss it later. And I'm not letting you die to get out of it. Yes, ma'am. Heart emoji, rolling, laughing face emoji, and Spock Vulcan salute emoji. Also, conspicuous by their absence, the local inhabitants saw not a single one of the XBs, that it was possible for synthetics and organics to live together in harmony. Yes, #7 of 9 will be the key to, well, thumbs up emoji, laughing, crying emoji. At Picard Cast, #Star Trek has had multiple devices over the decades that can read thoughts. Why would near 25th century synths be able to read thoughts be taboo? Is it the name mind meld that's so offensive? Why the intensity of antipathy? And then robot emoji, frowning emoji, thinking emoji, and Spock salute emoji. A synth doing it. I mean, that was the problem. I don't think if it had been done technologically, I would have had any problem with it at all. And I mentioned that several times on the podcast last week.
As did I. I don't have a problem with some kind of technological device. It's my problem is, and if you read his neck thing, I'll explain it to you. Go ahead.
Spock has mind melded with AIs on multiple occasions. Ergo, we know meldings are possible. Is it that you feel telepathy is a genetic trait that only Vulcans have, as opposed to a skill only Vulcans so far have mastered? Robot emoji, thinking emoji, Vulcan salute emoji.
It's not that I necessarily think it's telepathy per se, but more that it's some kind of telepathic-like ability that I think that they have, and I don't know that it's necessarily a genetic trait. But no, I don't think it's a skill that only Vulcans so far have mastered. I absolutely don't think it's a skill. I 100% think that it's some kind of psionic ability. Again, I said this last week. It's a psionic ability that you have to be able to have already in your brain, and I don't think that you can synthetically create such a thing. I just don't. Sorry.
Or are you worried that #Star Trek Picard writers called it a mind meld as a way for Jurati to have read Sutra's mind and get valuable intel to save the day, versus a one-way memory / brain / thought reader / scanner / extractor, robot face emoji, thinking emoji, Spock, Vulcan salute emoji?
He said like so, and then referenced a Stargate SG-1.
My response was, it's because it's a synth doing what a Vulcan would do. Yes, a Vulcan could read a Horta or a Nomad, but we've never had a non-Vulcan or non-half Vulcan do it before. So, I mean, I guess that was my... Could it be learned? I don't know, maybe.
I don't think so.
I mean, could a Betazoid do it? Maybe.
Probably, but they don't really need to mind meld. They just read thoughts.
Right.
Which is similar. And then Ken says, really, are you sure about that? And then he in fact has Deanna's mother gif. And he also says, even TOS had AIs with telepathy, in fact, telepathic control of people. And he references a classic Star Trek episode in season 1, Return of the Archons. But in all of these instances that he's referencing, I have to say, they're different. They're not the same as an actual mind meld, especially your Stargate SG-1 reference. That is completely different in a completely different situation and scenario. And yes, Daniel Jackson is getting intel and reading their mind. But as for what you say about can it be learned, or is it just a genetic trait? No, I think it's not necessarily a genetic trait. I mean, maybe a genetic trait. Maybe that is what I mean. It's something that I think that you have to have, telepathic abilities, psionic abilities that I'm not quite sure can be duplicated in a positronic brain. And I don't think I'll ever think that. So there.
Yeah.
Okay. Todd from Ohio says at me and at Picard Cast. Me as in my handle. Arroz con leche. I hope I said that not too murderously. In Spanish, literally means rice with milk. So maybe it's like a boba drink or a kind of rice pudding, maybe? Maybe? I don't know. He also says, the only way the android mind meld would work is if it was just two computer programs talking to each other. It's a different type of meld, but it works. I agree. If it's two computer programs, perfect. Maybe even if they're speaking a different language, like Linux and Windows, they could still somehow be made to talk to each other. But that's not what happened, was it?
Nope. No, it wasn't.
I'm just not going to get over it, guys. Sorry.
All right. So that's it for our feedback from last week. So now it's time for this week's episode, in Arcadia Ego Part 2. Of course, that was Season 1, Episode 10. The teleplay, again, was by Michael Chabon. This time, solo. He co-wrote the last one. The story was also by Michael Chabon and Akiva Goldsman, and directed by Akiva Goldsman. The description from CBS.com, a final confrontation on the synthetics homeworld, Capellius, pits Picard and his team against the Romulans, as well as the synths who seek to safeguard their existence at all cost. That's TVMA with language. The air date of March 25th, 2020. Obviously, March 26th, same old thing. I don't know what time it actually premiered this week because I didn't watch it immediately, watched it when I woke up. So the runtime was 56 minutes and 58 seconds. Well, I didn't catch any 47s, but two things that I have to say about it. First is we got our own 47 this week, and that was on the Facebook group. Member number 147 showed up. So
yay! Yay!
Angela Solfaro Menconi, thank you very much for being our 147th member in the Facebook group. The other thing is that Chabon, who, as we know, has been responding to questions, he responded to my 47 question. So I finally got an answer, although I don't think it was an answer that I liked all that much because I didn't actually put it in here. But
well, you can't say he gave you an answer and then not tell us what he said.
Well, I know. I asked the question, why didn't you have any 47s in Picard other than a few in graphics? He says, I mean, how many do you really need? I feel like one is as good as 5 or 47. Okay, well, that's another non-answer. But he did respond anyway. But that's his response.
Hmm.
All right.
Wow.
So,
That was disappointing.
yeah. With that, Ruthie, what did you think of this episode?
I liked it slightly better than last week.
So what is your arbitrary number?
This is the reason why I give out arbitrary ratings, folks, because I can't say what I think of each episode until I've seen the whole season. This one was my second to least favorite. Episode 7. I give a rating of 7. Sorry. 7. I'm giving it a 7.
Okay.
A 7. I didn't like it very much, but it was slightly better than last week. So it gets a 7.
And I am going to give this one a 8.5, I guess. I would say, I don't know. I'm under duress this week. So I may not be 100% myself this week. So I can't really think of anything to say. So 8.5.
All right.
I'm feeling kind of down, people. That's the truth.
All right.
I'm sure I'm not alone. All right. So listener ratings. Derek from Dublin gives it 9.5 out of 10.
James the Augmented Sailor says, "Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2 is a 9.25. Not now, Gerardi. I'm trying to pilot a starship for the first time in a very long time and trying not to crash or explode."
Yeah, and I guess I would say that this was my third least favorite. So, Fred from the Netherlands says 47. You know, you're rather pretty out of 50. That's 47 out of 50, exactly a 9.4 out of 10, which is my highest score for this first season. The whole season, I give an 8. Sir Patrick's acting was superbs out of 10. Oh ho! Really? Interesting, Fred. And he
How the story has changed.
He gives a big winking smiley face with some kind of hand that I'm not sure what that hand's supposed to be.
I'll show you.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's an A-OK sign.
An A-OK hand. Okay.
But the hand only has 4 fingers, so it's harder to do.
Right. That makes sense.
Oh my goodness. All right. Comic Geek Kev says, "For the episode, I give it a 9 out of 10 redeemed Romulans, mostly because I think they telegraphed too much last week about the ending, but I still completely enjoyed it. For the season, I'd go with 8 out of 10 aging admirals. It has some real what the heck moments, but overall, I loved it and look forward to another season."
Edwin from Arizona says 7.9. I don't like you.
Oh, that's fun. Brian from Hawaii says the Picard season 1 finale gets a 9.7 out of 10 blue butterflies.
Steve from OKC says 7.9 out of 10 missing scenes.
Rick from Cleveland says 9 out of 10 I'm not crying, you're crying moments. This may be an emotional response, but after 4 viewings has not changed for me at all.
LT from NC says, I'm giving this one a rink arbitrary 9 out of 10. Axl Rose quotes, "Where do we go now?" Or should I say,
"Oh, where do we go now?" Oh, that was awesome.
This is a tough one because overall, I did like the episode. Honestly, I liked it a lot, but just like last week, I have some nagging questions that bug me, no matter how emotional it was. LT, I would say that is similar to my own thoughts about this episode, that it's just those nagging things that kind of give me pause.
Yeah, I'm about out of patience, which is why I'm not willing to be generous anymore, I guess. But I agree with you. I liked it, but there was too much wrong. Anyway, we'll get into it, I'm sure. Mike from Arizona says, in terms of this week's episode and the season finale, in Arcadia Ego Part 2, I'm giving an 8.5 out of 10. It was only that high because we got to see Riker in command. A final goodbye to Data, 7 kicking ass, and 7 will be a part of the crew of Rangers. Everything else about it, though, was too rushed. The entire 2-part finale was rushed. I agree. And if they had made the first 3 episodes 2 instead of 3, like I think they initially intended to, they would have had extra time to maybe not rush the ending. Maybe they wouldn't have given us, well, anyway, they would have given us something better.
All right, so let's move on to our yeses.
Yes!
Derek from Dublin is first. He says, the choice given to Soji to decide to be a savior instead of a destroyer. The return of acting Captain Riker, ready to kick some Romulan ass out of the system. Yep. Yeah, I think giving Soji the choice like that was a good, and it was a very Star Trek, a very Picard thing to do, I think.
Agreed. All right. Fred has, of course, given us visual yeses. He says, as I will mention in my audio feedback later, I already had 48 primary nice screenshots noted after watching the episode twice. So I have to limit myself here to a top 10. Number 1, the Borg cube standing in the water. Number 2, Narissa and Narek meeting again in the Borg cube. Number 3, Rafi watching Rios repair the intermix reactor. Number 4, O's ship. Number 5, the Orchids space battle. I have to agree with that one. That one was pretty cool. Number 6, 25 Agnes Girardis.
That was pretty funny.
Yep. Number 7, close-up of O when she says, retarget disruptors, engage them. Number 8, Rios and Seven at sunset. Number 9, dying Data. And number 10, La Serena crew going into season 2.
Cool. And at the time of us recording this, I still have to get a lot of Fred's visuals from last week up on the blog post. So it's just been a tough week this week. So anyway, so I'll continue with James, the Augmented Sailor. He says, the fact that this episode mostly redeems the series for the awful part 1 of the finale. This really should have been a 2-hour finale. Would it have played better if it was a 2-hour finale? I suppose, but I don't know. There were just some things about that last episode I think it might have soured the overall mark of a 2-hour finale if this was combined with the last week. The scenes with Data and Picard were beautiful and bittersweet. I was watching with the wife, and our 17-year-old had come into the room while this played out, and I had to really put forth an effort to keep from openly bawling in front of them.
Oh, man, let it out, James.
Yeah.
Don't hold it in. Cry when you gotta. It's okay. We won't think you're less manly.
I'll probably give it a good cry when I'm...
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Edwin from Arizona says, all of the Picard speech dialogue, data conversation, and death. Those are his yeses.
Comic Geek Kev, again. We played his feedback far too late last week. So here's some early feedback from him. The scene of the Serena coming back online. I don't know why, but it just made me feel really good. Picard sitting in the captain's chair. Seven versus Narissa, because I still had this to live for. And Narissa's fall better be permanently fatal. And he says, Fred won't like that. He also mentions multiple Girardis and acting Captain Riker. And seeing Picard really came back and be Picard with his interactions with Soji. Thank you. Using the butterfly as sort of a scene transitioner. Yep. Okay. Those are good points.
Yeah, those were nice. All right. Brian from Hawaii says, the cinematic visuals continue to be spectacular, especially the Borg cube sitting in the water on the landscape. Picard's speech to Aggie about the value of life was so uplifting and filled with optimism. That sentiment is what motivated all of his actions throughout the episode. He's definitely no longer the most disillusioned man in 2 quadrants, to quote the book. I'm relieved to see that Soong, upon learning the truth about what Sutra did, acted on this information by deactivating her and helping the effort to thwart Soji's opening of the portal. But it does make me wonder why he couldn't just deactivate all of the androids that way. You know, I wondered the same thing. Like, why didn't he just deactivate Soji?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Sutra was the one that he needed to deactivate.
But Soji was the one who was operating the thingamajig.
I guess. Maybe she doesn't have the same kind of off switch.
Maybe not.
Okay.
All right. He says, I loved seeing Picard pilot the starship. The part where Aggie tried to get his attention and he said he was too busy concentrating was funny. The mention of the Picard maneuver and Stargazer was a nice callback to TNG. The biggest yes of all were the final scenes between Picard and Data. It was so beautiful to see two old friends get concerns off their chests and say goodbye. Data's request to be granted mortality was touching, reminiscent of Asimov's Bicentennial Man, on which his character was partially based. Picard's pulling the plug on him and holding his hand in TNG uniform had me misty-eyed.
Cool.
I agree.
Yeah, I thought that was a touching end.
A lot of those things were my yeses as well.
Mm-hmm. Steve Remote KC says 7 of 9 back in Starfleet at the end.
I did not understand that.
Yeah, I think just because she's on the La Sirena, I don't think that means that she's in Starfleet. But maybe he means just back, hopefully back on the show next season. So, and there hasn't been a formal announcement that I know of yet about that.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, Rick from Cleveland says, yes for Synth Picard. This totally contradicts what I said last week, that Synth Picard would be Star Trek's jump the shark moment. It wasn't. It was perfectly done and allowed Picard to make a genuine sacrifice, just as Data had done. It helps that Picard's new body is essentially human, making him the same Picard minus the brain anomaly. I personally choose to suspend disbelief of how a synthetic biological person works and how a soul gets moved from one body to the other. I accept that Picard in his new body is Picard, plain as that. Yes for Data getting a proper goodbye. This was as moving a scene for me as Spock dying at the end of Wrath of Khan. I am grateful to the writers for giving us this beautiful closure for Data. Blue skies will be stuck in my head for a while, and I welcome it. I agree. I really liked that song at the end. I thought it was great. Yes for the redemption of Agnes. The journey her character took this season took this seemingly shy woman who had never been to space, seen her both murder, save, and sacrifice for others, in the end finding her place with our heroes. Yes for Soong being much better a man than I gave him credit for last week. He was driven to make things right upon discovering Sutra's treachery, and set aside his own opportunity for immortality to allow Picard to survive. For that matter, yes for Sutra getting deactivated by Soong. She was as treacherous as Laura ever was and got what she deserved, although I doubt we've seen the last of her. Yes, of course, for Seven's kicking Narissa's butt. Queen Annika was great in this episode, in her scene with Elnor, and in her confrontation with Narissa were just wonderful. Then her scene with Chris, where she clearly regrets having killed someone just because they deserved it. What a stark contrast from the seemingly cold former drone we met in Voyager. Yes for Riker showing up with the cavalry, though I must admit I was hoping for Worf and the Enterprise E. It was great to see Riker in uniform doing something other than making pizza in the woods. Yes for the use of music in this episode. The overlay of classic themes at key moments drove so much of this episode home, and I will never again hear Blue Skies without seeing Data's wrinkled face fade away. Yep.
Cool.
Good times. I think I agree with a lot of the yeses that you had.
LT from NC is next. I believe he is our last of our yeses. Watching 7 give Narissa the Sparta kick off the rail. Seeing Jean-Luc Picard pilot the La Sirena, he's in the camp, I guess. Having Captain Riker in the center seat and hearing him laying down the smack on O. The scene with Picard and Data in the Matrix. And despite the lead up, I really like the happy crew montage at the end. Finding out it was Issa Briones singing Blue Skies.
Oh.
Yeah, I was actually gonna mention that. So, yep. Okay. So that's it for your yeses. What do you have, Ruthie?
Let's see here. Rafi likes hearing she was right as much as I do. I loved that. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's funny.
Honestly, I think Michelle Hurd is doing the most. I love her facial expressions. She's very good at expressing herself using her face, not just her words. So that was really great for me.
All right.
I've always liked Agnes Girardi. Maybe it's because I like Alison Pill, but I really liked that she broke into his room and how excited she was about busting him out.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fun. I think people already mentioned this. I don't know if anyone said specifically the Rafi and Elnor scene, but if they did, I wholeheartedly agree. I thought that scene was great. She's just really quite nurturing when she's given the chance and someone needs her to be. So I liked the scene between Rios and Seven, but I think I like the scene between Rafi and Elnor more.
All right. I don't think I came up with anything that's not already been said. If I think of anything for the yeses, I'll either mention it later or I'll surreptitiously add it later. All right, for our no's. No! All right, Derek from Dublin says, how does everyone seem to know Picard's catchphrases? That's a good question. Dr. Girardi saying, make it so, the whole crew expectantly waiting on Picard's engage for the second time this season felt off. Well, I thought I was going to have in our nose that we never heard Picard say, make it so. Like, was this a Patrick Stewart thing? He didn't want to say, make it so. I thought that was a bit of a letdown for me. That probably would have raised my mark by a half a point. Just that one thing.
I missed him saying it as well. I thought she did a fine job, but I really wanted him to say it.
Right.
But I guess according to the Ready Room, that's not the case. So I don't know. She just got to say it, I guess.
Guess they were subverting our expectations or something.
I don't know. He said, make it so way more times than he said engage.
Yep.
Like every time they left, make it so. Yeah, like every time they left the Ready Room or the observation room or whatever, they were like, make it so. He was like, make it so. Giving them orders, make it so. Anyway, Fred from the Netherlands says, 2 easy deaths of 2 of the main villains. O is the third one. Sutra just switched off and Narissa just pushed overboard. Narissa is dead, probably. Actually, I really hope not. I'm sorry, Fred. I hope that she kind of is, but not. I don't know.
Not for you.
I like her better than her brother, I guess. I don't know. And then he says, the synthetic tentacles, a bit cheesy. And I say, only a bit?
Yeah, they were pretty cheesy.
They were like, cheese-tastic.
It was not their finest moment in computer animation.
Nope, not even a little bit.
James the Augmented Sailor says, this finale gave us some nice feels and closure, but ultimately left some huge holes. I agree.
Me too.
To me, the entire Borg plotline is no longer relevant to the arc and was literally filler. This wasn't necessary to introduce Seven since we didn't meet her on the cube. They had no impact on the Romulan mythos. It also leaves a gaping hole with why Soji has Borg knowledge. I'm hoping this is something that gets explored more during future seasons, but for now, it's a huge glaring no for me. I agree, James. I think I was going to have this in my nose as well because they really didn't even do anything with the Borg. Like, even in the end, like the XBs that are on the planet could have started a civilization with the synths that are there. And because I think I mentioned this last week that they're both kind of
marginalized.
Yeah. So 2 groups of marginalized peoples could work together to become not so marginalized and have a good working relationship. And, we didn't even see that really happen. So to me, that was a huge opportunity lost. And that's where, I think, some of my rating is just on some opportunities lost on this. And, I did like the episode quite a bit, but when I was trying to think of things to point out, I didn't come up with anything that positive that wasn't already said. Like, yeah, I love seeing Riker, but actually had more questions about that than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
The more I think about it, the more this bothers me. The Romulan Empire was decimated by the supernova, yet they have a huge 218 warbird fleet, and they're not even old warbirds. They're a brand new class that would have taken vast resources, infrastructure, and organization to build. Are the Tal Shiar that powerful that even with a crippled empire, they're able to pull this off? I don't buy it. Well,
I have to agree with you. I thought this was hugely unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing like snatches of their society all over the place. They're more or less scattered. And yet somehow they come up with 218 brand new identical ships. To me, this kind of felt like we don't want to pay to make a whole bunch of different ship graphics. So we're going to do the same for both the Starfleet ships and the Romulan ships.
Yeah.
Because both fleets looked exactly identical. Like, how likely is that? Come on now.
Yeah.
Especially since, A, the Romulan society has been completely decimated, and B, Starfleet's ability to make ships is also really limited.
Yeah.
Since Utopia Planitia was destroyed and Mars apparently is still burning. They just have another shipyard somewhere that we didn't know about that they could just, we'll just make these brand new fancy pants ships here and nope, can't see it. To me, it feels like lazy writing and we don't want to spend the money on the CG, so we're just going to do something stupid.
Yes, I was not a fan of this. I wasn't a fan of that, and I wasn't a fan of all the ships supposedly being the same. Chabon says differently. I didn't read his response, but he hinted at it that supposedly they're not all the same, but they look the same to me.
Yeah, well, if you change one tiny little thing, that's not really making it different. I mean, if you've seen Star Trek in the past, you know that there are many different classes of ships, and I don't know, the warbirds all look the same to me too, and they all look different and new, like James said. So 218 shiny new warbird fleet.
But yeah, I mean, you have
unless they had like a hidden fleet somewhere that they were holding in reserve instead of rescuing their people.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares about our people? Let's make sure that the entire universe isn't destroyed. That seems very counterintuitive to Romulan society. I mean, they are pretty certain that they're superior, so I would think that they would want to save their own people rather than rescuing the rest of the universe. But I don't know.
Yeah. Picard's brain abnormality instantly kicks in and ultimately kills him so suddenly. He went from fine to dead really quick. Is the abnormality like an aneurysm or something? Then he has, is that it?
Hand wave.
Yes.
Emojis. That's pretty clever.
Yes. I am not a big fan of this Quaker instant death that they gave Picard, because that's literally what it is. It's like, he's fine some moments, and then, he has like this, weird, phase out, and then he's dead. And to me, I would have rather seen, a decline over hours or something like that, rather than these two brief episodes that we see. So I'm not a fan of that at all. And yeah.
I didn't really care for it either, honestly. It felt, we definitely want to kill him, so we're going to make this do it. And I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the United Federation of Planets medical staff, or knowledge, I should say, medical knowledge is sufficient to prevent aneurysms. So it can't be an aneurysm, but boy, it sure seemed like it was. And of course, they didn't come up with anything, like no description of what exactly it was, just a brain abnormality that kills as quickly as an aneurysm, but it's probably not an aneurysm.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure we've seen them cure aneurysms before. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But
No, well, yeah. Didn't McCoy do something like that with
I'm pretty sure we've seen somebody get an aneurysm cured.
Chekhov.
It's a simple thing now.
Chekhov in Star Trek 4. That's what it was. It was McCoy, and it was an aneurysm. That's what it was.
Okay, so hundreds of years earlier, or at least 100 years earlier, they were able to cure aneurysms. But now we have this mysterious thing that kills so instantly that, but all we can call it is a brain abnormality.
Yep.
I'm really, honestly disappointed in this so-called science-based show that we're seeing. Lots of hand wave, and they're not even giving us Treknobabble. They're telling us things like, use your imagination.
Yeah.
No, pass.
Yeah. I mean, I thought of that myself. In fact, that was one of the questions that I had to Chabon was, why didn't they use the thingamadoo on him? Yes, James. Use thingamadoo
Gosh.
to my question to Chabon. So,
Well, anyway, Comic Geek Kev says the whole explanation of what Maddox and Soong did to create the simulation. Well, Trek science, I guess. Realistically, we wouldn't understand future science. Just like people from the 1600s wouldn't get iPhones. I guess I'm okay with that. I thought the beacon was supposed to instantaneously call the advanced synths. Maybe I heard that wrong, but it seemed to take some drama-building time to see those tentacles. You are not wrong. They were supposed to light up the beacon, and then boom, there they were. But because the characters had their plot device shields on, the tentacles didn't get to come through right away. So, yeah. I was also not a huge fan of that.
Edwin from Arizona is next. He says, Elnor didn't see Spot 2, the cat. Yes, good. We had that mentioned now.
Yep, I thought that was sad too. I was a little disappointed by that missed opportunity.
Brian from Hawaii is next. He says, how did Narissa get onto the planet? I can deduce she never left the cube, so must have done a site-to-site transport. It would have been nice if they'd acknowledged that or mentioned that she'd been hiding.
Yeah, and why did it seem like Narek was looking for her as if he knew she would be there? Shouldn't he have assumed that she would be with the fleet?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I didn't, okay, this was a huge no for me as well, because why in the world would she have done a site-to-site transport instead of beaming off the cube onto her ship? This makes absolutely no sense and is only there because it was written that way. So to me, this is just another another example of terrible writing, and I'm frankly sick of it. My patience for this kind of thing is pretty much dried up. Can anyone give me an explanation to why she would have done a site-to-site transport instead of just beamed off her ship? I mean, the fleet was right there!
Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense. And why they didn't, beam her out, even if she didn't ask for it. Why didn't she, have one of the other ships beam her out, they beam her out. I don't mean that she requested. I mean, they actually beam her out. It doesn't make sense.
That's what I'm saying. I thought when she got transported somewhere in that scene on the Borg cube, I think everyone assumed that she got beamed off the cube onto the ship because the fleet's she even said as much. Is my ship ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Yeah, your ship's ready, but
we're going to leave.
Take off without you. Yep, we
Yeah.
don't need you. We've decided. I mean, come on, people! I just can't with this. That's that kind of stuff that it's way too much convenience and hand waving. And we want this to happen, so we need to have this happen. I mean, it's the first season. You shouldn't be having this kind of problem with the writing. Honestly, I've said this before, probably not on this podcast, but I know I've said it in The Walking Dead at least. It's like they came up with ideas and decided to reverse engineer a plot because we want XYZ to happen. So what can we do to make that happen? That's not how you write a story. You write a story by, making good choices. I mean, I know how you write a story, but it's not like I want this to happen and I want this to happen and I want this to happen. So how can I make it happen and then write nonsensical, illogical things? I'm just very frustrated right now. I'm like, I feel right now, I feel like I felt right before I quit The Walking Dead. And it pisses me off to no end.
Well, we still have Discovery. So
Yeah.
when Narek is throwing rocks at the ship, Rios and Raffi seem to already know him. The three of them speak as if they've met before, but I don't recall them ever encountering one another in person before this. You are correct, fellow Brian. They have not met before, and they would have no reason to know unless there was some debriefing that we didn't get to see.
I think they knew who he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did kind of speak more familiarly than they would have.
Yeah, and for that matter, I don't think Elnor had met him either. So, I mean, he had obviously met his sister, but not him.
Yeah, he was already in the Snakehead.
Right. What did Soon mean when he said to Aggie she was sacrificing herself as a mother? I think it has something to do with the original plan for the golem, whatever that was, but this was never explained. Well, yeah, I think that's what it was, that Soon was getting the golem and that she wasn't going to have a golem, and obviously neither was Picard. So
I don't know that anybody was thinking that Picard wanted / needed it at that point in time.
Except
I did
me.
not understand. Oh, okay, well,
that is
anybody
my guess.
on the show. Anybody on the show.
Doggone it. I'm going to rewind time, go back 20 minutes. That is my yes, that I was 100% right.
Well, good for you. I'm talking about the characters in the show.
Who cares about them? I'm kidding.
I
I'm
don't
kidding.
know.
I'm kidding.
No one does. I think that's why they got written so bad.
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it?
Anyway, yeah, no. I was also curious about this. Like, what exactly was she supposed to be self-sacrificing?
And my last comment deserves
Yep.
When Picard and Aggie are flying the ship, why didn't they activate a hologram or two to help them? That's a good point.
That is a very good question.
Yes.
I don't know why they did not do that.
Yes, that is a very good point. I didn't even think of that, but I will put my cap off to you, Brian. That was a good idea.
I think the only thing that I can come up with is, which I can't really even say with a straight face, is because Soji had deactivated them, but I can't think that she had permanently deactivated them. But that was the last we heard of them, is that they had been deactivated by Soji when she didn't want interference for plotting the course.
Yeah.
And then they arrived and the space flower got them and boom, the ship went down. I don't know why they didn't use them. That's the only explanation I've got. But again, hand wave, plot hole.
Mm-hmm. If Data's consciousness and memories are saved in the quantum simulation within a computer, why couldn't Soong and Maddox just transfer him into a new body in the same way that Picard was transferred? What am I missing? Well, for the first part of that, I don't know, but it was pretty clearly stated that Data wanted to die. He wanted to have a finite existence. So maybe that's why. Maybe they had interacted with him and his wish was not to come back. I don't know.
But if that were the case, then why did they keep him in the simulation so long?
I don't know that either. So.
Again, it was a beautiful moment, but hand wave, plot hole.
Mm-hmm. Seven and Raffi holding hands at the end came out of nowhere. It felt forced and out of place. Yes, I agree with you. I
also agree.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
I didn't like it either. Now, mind you, if they become a couple in season 2, that's fine and good. The problem that I had with it is that just had not seemed to be telegraphed in any way. I didn't see anything to, there was like I know Raffi had acknowledged that her Seven's group was doing good out there, but I didn't see like any kind of beyond that
lingering looks or anything. I mean,
yeah,
when Rios and Agnes hooked up, that was so not out of the blue. That was completely
Yeah.
like, I mean, it was there. There were little hints. There were, flirtations, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. You could tell that's where they were going.
Mm-hmm. Right away.
But
yep, I agree.
I mean, I don't know. I just, it irritates me sometimes when I feel like people throw in a romance just to throw in a romance. I'm like, I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but sometimes I feel like they make things LGBTQ that don't necessarily have to or need to be that way. I'm like, okay, the last we saw of both Seven and Rafi, they were involved with men. Now, I'm not saying
that's true.
that
Yes,
it's completely out of the realm of possibility that they could be of multiple persuasions. That's fine. I just would like some hint first, rather than just, okay, now we're going to shove this in here just because we have to be, we have to be PC, or we have to please this community, or we have to do this. I'm like, personally, if it were me, I would feel insulted that they didn't feel the need to make this a little bit more of a natural progression of something. I mean, like, give me some looks first, like romance me a little bit before you try and just,
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm completely fine with it. I just don't like, especially if a character has 100% been a different way previously, and then suddenly now it's this. I just want to know why. I'm like, I don't have a problem with it. I just don't understand.
Yeah. And, neither character, you could say, would fit the lesbian perspective, because both of them have had relationships with men. So, okay, bisexual, pansexual, whatever you want to call it, that's fine. It just, there had been no indication of that in the first 10 episodes up until the last 2 minutes or whatever it was. So, yeah, I agree with you, Ruthie.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. Not because it existed, but because it hadn't been, there'd been no indication of it before then.
No, no hints. I mean, if they had done, and I must stress again that I really enjoyed the Rafi Elnor scene. However, if they had shown Seven and Rafi together instead of Seven and Rios and Rafi and Elnor, then okay, maybe, I would have believed that a little bit more. It wouldn't have felt like, I don't know, like a relationship for the sake of a relationship. Honestly, I mean, like, characters don't have to get together. They can be friends. Not everybody, and I say this with male-female relationships, female-female relationships, male-male relationships, any kind of relationship that is had on a ship or show, generally speaking, don't have to end in romance, or they don't have to be romantically involved. People can be friends. People are friends all the time. People are friends more than they're romantically involved, honestly. I mean, I don't understand. Like I said, if they had shown them together in a touching moment when they were both grieving Picard, then I could see maybe a little bit more that they had made a connection. But just a glancing shot of them holding hands or, clasping hands together, just kind of, I agree with you. It felt forced and out of place. All right. Next, we've got Steve from OKC, who says, making us watch the grieving of our characters while we are just waiting for the reveal of Picard in the Golem. I agree, Steve. I thought that was kind of like, man, they sure are carrying on a bit. I guess maybe they didn't know that it was going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the grief was touching, but the entire rest of the universe knew that he was going to come back as the Golem. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said last week, as soon as I saw that thing, I knew that's what it was for. And if it had gone anywhere else, I would have been shocked.
Yeah. All right. Rick from Cleveland gives us the big, huge no. Hundreds of the exact same model Starfleet ship in Riker's Armada. While I understand that a lot of the fleet had to be built after the losses of the Dominion War, we have seen large fleets before. They are never all the same class of ship. This felt like a cheap special effects budget to me.
Yep.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Yep. I lost a lot of respect in the whole special effects when this, and not just because of Starfleet, but the Romulans too. I don't buy that. It's like you were saying earlier, Ruthie, like I would expect there to be some like old D. Deridex class warbirds in there, some of the, I don't remember
raggedy
the name.
ships.
Yeah, and
and
some,
why weren't they cloaked?
Yeah, and scouts, and the ships that they had in Nemesis too. Those were a different class.
Yeah.
You know, why did we not see any of those? To me,
I don't know.
it is not realistic for them. Like, look at, say, all the big armadas that they had in Deep Space Nine and the Dominion War. They had,
or First Contact when they were fighting the Borg.
Or yeah, exactly. Or Wolf 359. You know, that they had the Miranda class, they had the Excelsior class, they had the Constellation class. I think they had the Ambassador class, they had Galaxy class, they had, you know, you name it. They had all sorts of different ships. They had Defiant class, they had Intrepid class, they had tons of them, you know, all different ones, and several others that I don't even mention. So why?
Honestly, if that many ships had shown up at me, I would have been personally thinking that's another trick.
Yeah.
Because they all look exactly the same.
Yeah, to me, that was poor. That was really poor, and felt like they didn't even do that for the Battle of the Binary Stars. They had all different ships in there too. So why Starfleet would have all this one ship? Yes, okay, Utopia Planitia was decimated, but they weren't building starships there at the time. They were building the freighters. And there are some other places where they build starships. That wasn't the only place. That was the biggest place, but that wasn't the only place. But main point being, they're not going to all be this same class that the Ibn Majid was. I think Chabon calls it a Curiosity class. So there were, 100 and something Curiosity classes in there. I don't buy it at all. And I have more to say about that. It's actually in my not good enough, but it's gonna get a grade up to the it's gonna go in the nose now. So
yeah. All right. He goes on to say, when we met Soong last week, it was at least implied that the only one who knew him was Maddox. This week there was reference made to him having worked with Agnes and Bruce. That being the case, why was he never mentioned before? Also, Data talks about him as though he knew him all along. I agree. I did not like, to me, what felt like a retcon of having, I think someone said it last week, they just wanted to give Brent Spiner another character. And, you know, Brent Spiner is amazing. I'm the first one to say it. He's great. I love his characters, but I was disappointed. I would have rather it had been Lore somehow, personally.
Yep. Okay, so it's time for our nose. What do you have?
The whole Mythos story is just complete crap. And the fact that it is, I mean, Raffi says to him, is it a premonition? He says, no, it's history. And of course, they go, I mean, the whole Romulan Zhat Vash branch of the Tal Shiar goes crazy to stop this because, and I quote, history always repeats itself. And they don't need any more motivation than that or proof. So it's a hunch based on a tropey quip that has driven them to these actions of destruction. Really?
Yeah, I don't buy it either. It seems terribly, terribly forced. And, you know, we've said it already about the Romulans. Like, clearly just sharing the message would have been enough for the Federation to make sure that they didn't, like, make mistakes like that. And if anything, they just brought on the demise, not tried to stop it. They made it worse.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you want to talk about history repeating itself. How about the old trope of when you try and prevent your future actions, you actually cause them thing? I mean, that's what we're dealing with, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of these tropes, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like lazy writing to me. Like, again, we've got this plot point that we want to have. So how can we get there? well, let's say that history repeats itself. Everybody knows that history repeats itself. I mean, not really. People say that. And it is a famous saying by, I can't remember who, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. But really, that's a trope. It's a saying to get people to learn from their mistakes. Not what you base a mythos story on and the determination to destroy an entire type of being. Come on now.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't buy it either. My first no, I thought it was too easy to dispatch Sutra. It's kind of what I thought might happen, like an off switch, but it really wasn't any different than that. And it really neutralized this villainous android in a rather quick turn of note. Like all it took, here's Soon kind of plotting against Picard and everybody else, taking their side. And then he sees this one thing with what Sutra and Narek did, poking the eye out. And that's enough for him to change his mind. And it's also that quick to shut off Sutra. So I thought that was very poor. It didn't help. And I also didn't like the fact that who's like doing everything, who's like setting up the system is Soji. Like Soji, who just got there.
Yeah.
So why is it her?
I don't know.
That I didn't like at all. So
I didn't like that either.
All of that combined into a big no for me. I especially didn't like the fact that Soji was there doing it and that they had to have that whole thing. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. If anything, if Soji had like become the leader of them, then maybe I would have bought it. But that's kind of not what happened. It's just that she was operating the machine.
Yeah, Sutra was standing there going, "Okay, work you." I'm like, "Okay, really?" No. I thought my thoughts were he shut her down so easily, and then no one else reacted to it. Like everybody's just like, "Okay, cool. Soong is deactivating Sutra. We're cool with that." Like to me, she appeared to be the de facto leader. I don't know if she is, but she was certainly acting like it. So if I'm all on this hate organics kick and I'm going to bring down the hammer on them and we're going to call upon these people who are going to be vengeful for us and kill all organics, and then this organic comes along and takes out Sutra and everybody's like, okay, whatever. Like, really? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So then again, I say, why didn't he just do that to Soji? I just too many plot holes, too much hand waving. I was actually relieved that he was upset about Saga's death and the way that it happened. That made me happy. But the whole like, oh, I'm just going to deactivate you now. Like, and it not only that, but it kind of negates the whole like, let us choose for ourselves kind of a thing. I'm like,
yeah,
not if you can just come along and be like, well, you made a bad choice. Boom, you're deactivated. I just no.
Do you have anything else?
Yes, I did not like the use your imagination device.
Hate it.
This is supposed to be a science-based show, but we are relying on, quote, magic because we can't explain this technology, so it appears as magic to us. And I don't like it.
I hate it.
I'm like, I can't, I mean, I understand that any sufficiently advanced technology appears like magic, but
yeah,
why can't you explain it? I mean, this is a science-based show, or it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I just, once again, Michael Chabon, you let me down. I'm sorry. I know you think you did a great job, but you did not, sir.
We have more on this coming up. I see some more comments about that, but I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I meant to bring this up the last 2 episodes, but I guess it fits here too. And, we already talked about Elnor and Raffi, but there was a bond that Elnor had with Seven that it seemed forced and not earned. It just didn't seem they had done anything together for him to miss her so much, I
guess I kind of thought that.
Although I must say, before you finish that, socially awkward Elnor by saying, hey, wouldn't the Borgs be better off dead?
He's just speaking what he thinks.
Yes.
All the time truth.
It's like, hey, Elnor, I'm
no filter.
I'm a Borg.
Yeah, well, I kind of tend to think that maybe it's that whole like savior rescued thing. Like she came to his rescue, and so that's kind of why maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe.
That's kind of what I was thinking about it. So, all right, my next one was so they can restore her memories and download her optic recordings, but for some reason they can't restore her. When they recreated data from memory engrams from one of his salvaged neurons, and they can't bring Saga back to life? What?
Yeah.
Just come on now. I mean, you just really want her to be dead, don't you? I mean, they could have just as easily brought her back to life, and then she could have come forward and said, hey, Sutra killed me.
Yes.
Rather than having Soong go and deactivate Sutra. I think it would have been much more impactful, and it would have probably divided the sense, and they might have turned on Sutra and been like, yo, why'd you do that? Kind of a thing. And instead of having no reaction whatsoever to, oh, Sutra just got deactivated. Okay, cool.
Yep. Good points there. Definitely good points. This has been talked about a little bit, but the thing that I love seeing Riker back on the ship, and I loved seeing him in the comments there. I didn't like so much that he wasn't on the Titan, although I guess you could explain why he wouldn't be on the Titan. And maybe Riker might be the most experienced commander there, most senior, but he's been retired for 10 years. So you just give him the flagship? I don't buy that. And for that matter, where's Clancy? Like, what I would have bought was that if Clancy had picked Riker as her first officer and she was the one there, that I would have bought. But that's not what we got. We got So I like that it was Riker, but I didn't like it based on the fact that he was retired, and it just didn't. I just didn't see him in. I saw him there. I just didn't see him captaining the flagship. That's kind of where I was just like, that doesn't make sense to me.
I agree. And I had nearly the same thing. While it was nice seeing Riker again, I would have much rather it had been Worf on the Enterprise. So,
yeah.
I mean, is not the Enterprise the flagship?
Not anymore.
So, but why not? Why would the Enterprise no longer be the flagship?
Well, it would at this
because
point.
Because Picard isn't on it anymore?
No.
Okay, so then why is the Enterprise not the flagship?
Okay, well, I can say for one thing, it's an older ship now. Like it would have been, say, equivalent to the Ambassador class when Next Gen was on. It would have been 20 plus 25, whatever it would be. 96 would have been 24 years ago. So, roughly 2373, I think.
Okay, I get what you're saying, but I have a counterpoint.
Okay.
So I am Worf, and I've got command of the flagship, the Starship Enterprise, which is the flagship of the fleet. And I'm going to give that up, even though I'm still an active captain. I'm going to give up the flagship position because newer ships came along. No, you're going to make a new ship that's an Enterprise, that's a new class, and Worf is still going to be the captain of it. I mean, think about it. Why is he going to say, okay, yeah, I'll let somebody else be the flagship now? No! That's the entire reason Riker never left the Enterprise, because he was first officer on the flagship. It's just, no, I don't buy it. I don't buy that who was at one point in time the captain of the flagship, because apparently that's what it was. Then suddenly his ship is old, so he's not the captain of the flagship anymore. Nope. Sorry. Don't buy it. He would have gotten a new ship, or he would have been the ones to get a new ship. And one of those new ships would have been called Enterprise.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying. It's an old ship, but
you're saying that he would have gotten a new ship. Yeah. Yes. I mean, Picard did. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I can,
nope.
I see your logic there.
I just don't. I mean, again, I loved seeing Riker, but it did not follow. I really did not appreciate Soji's logic here. Try to see this from our point of view. Really? Try to understand that the only way we can survive is if all of you die. Okay. I don't understand how she could go so far from these people are my friends. They helped me get home. They gave me succor when I needed it. And, oh, but sorry, you guys all gotta die now in order for us to live. I didn't like that at all. I appreciated Picard's entreaties to her about use your imagination, or a lack of, what did he say? A lack of imagination, saying I don't have a choice shows a lack of imagination or something. I can't remember exactly what it said.
Mm-hmm.
In this instance, I'm okay with imagination. That's what imagination is for.
Mm-hmm.
Not for healing ships or fixing ships.
Right.
Imagination is for finding yourself out of the bad situation that you're in. I did not, it just felt super illogical to me, especially for someone who is an android, basically. And yes, she has emotions, but her brain is supposed to be logic based. And it felt like way too quick of a 180-degree shift from, try to see this from our point of view. You can't come up with a better reason than that. Like, oh, okay, you're right. In order for you to live, I must die. I see that now. And why am I not going to fight for survival just as much? That's exactly what the Romulans are doing. They think that they are fighting for their survival. And so she is doing exactly the same thing. And it's just stupid. And I didn't understand it. And I didn't like it. I was irritated. It irritated me.
All right. Well, let's move on to our not good enoughs.
Yes.
Not good enough, damn it. Not good enough.
Let's.
Jack from Dublin says, the magic fixing tool to bring in the Picard maneuver felt a little Disney. I'll shut up. just imagine what you want and it'll fix your problems. Also, the wrap up of all the conflict this season, Soji leaves her homeworld and the synth ban is lifted, felt like a story convenience.
Yeah, did kind of seem like a spoonful of sugar.
Well, I didn't really have a problem with the synth ban being lifted, but I did have a problem with Soji just leaving her homeworld. Like, that just seemed like, you say, a story convenience. Oh, well, I what did she say? Something like, I want to travel, or, I'm
more of a wanderer.
Well, we didn't see this before, right? She was on the Borg cube the whole time. We didn't see her wander. So,
yep.
To me, that was very contrived.
I agree. It was.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, we already talked about the Thingmadoo, using James's name for it. I don't like it at all. Like,
I don't either. Just imagine how you want, it's like the Vulcan mind meld all over again. This thing is reading his mind and it knows how to fix the ship. Like, what?
It's like, you remember the Exocomps? It's like the Exocomps version 62 or something,
Yeah.
So instead of putting in a problem and the Exocomp solves it and, comes up with a tool, no, you think a problem and the magic tool comes up with a tool for it. To me, it doesn't make any sense at all.
It does not. I agree. All right. James, the Augmented Sailor, says, I would have really liked to see what happened with Chakotay and Seven. They were an item at the conclusion of Voyager, and now she's getting together with Rafi and may or may not have hooked up with Bjayzl. I think we could have at least gotten a quick mention of what happened with her and him. And then he says, the imagination fixer tool thingamadoo.
To your first point there, yeah, well, Chakotay wasn't even really mentioned at all. So I think at this point, if Chakotay had been mentioned, just dropped in episode 10, I think that would have been fan servicey and not really appropriate. So I think if they were going to mention him at any point, it would have been, in the first episode or earlier at least, but not this point.
Well, they should have done that. I mean, I'm not saying they should have done it in this episode, but I agree. They definitely should have mentioned at least something.
Yeah.
I mean, hello.
And the imagination fix tool thingamadoo, we already talked about it. I mean, it's less offensive to me than the sutra meld, but I don't like it just because I don't think that that Star Trek is a relevant place to put in things that look like magic. I don't really need something like that in my Star Trek. So I don't like it. And that makes me think that we're going to see a lot of things like that in, Discovery when it comes back, because it'll be, almost like from here, 800, 900 years ahead, 800 and something. So
I hope not.
I mean, if it's seen then, I could understand it a little better, but seeing it here, I just don't like it. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. And he's got something that I also had. Is the Enterprise no longer the flagship of Starfleet? Or was the Huang Wei just the flagship of this battle group? I'd have liked to see this explained. I mean, I get it. This is a character-driven show, and they didn't want to mention or appearance of the Enterprise distracting the audience, but look at what they did with Discovery and its appearance there. It didn't distract in that instance.
Yeah, and
I agree.
I know that the definition of what a flagship is can differ. It could be like the Admiral's ship, they might call the flagship, or it's the flagship of, whatever like fleet that they've built, or it could be like the Enterprise has been like the flagship of Starfleet. It's not really explained here, but I'm thinking that it means the flagship of the Federation. So now why it's not the Enterprise? I mean, I don't know. Has the Enterprise always been the flagship? I don't know that either, but it would have been nice for it to be the Enterprise, but it's not. So that's fine. I don't know. I didn't hate this. I hated much more that all the ships look to be the same.
Yeah, I didn't like the ships thing. All right, he goes on to say, what's with these shows and synthetic tentacles? It really does seem that somehow Control survived the 23rd century and is now the synthetic race we see on this show. I did not like the tentacles either.
I didn't either.
Picard being put into the golem, which he mispronounced, by the way. I mean, unless he wants his precious back and needs to kill the fat hobbit. The pronunciation of this character from Jewish lore is golem. Hard O, JL. Hard O. That is true. Unless he's just pronouncing it the way that British people do. You know how they sometimes mispronounce things. Anyway, back to my point. I didn't like this. I feel it wasn't necessary. They could have left the brain abnormality thing alone and just had it be a more long-term condition. It also negates my theory from last week about it being the ultimate demise for JL on the show. Hashtag James isn't right. Hashtag Brian is right.
Sorry, James.
All right. I know, sorry. Girardi gets the make it so, and the final word for Picard was engage. So I was sitting there waiting for make it so. I even said it out loud when the camera went to him, and all he gave us was engage. I was disappointed.
I was too.
I agree.
I don't understand.
He said engage already, and we didn't ever get a make it so. And like I said before, he said make it so way more often.
Way more often. I don't get it. Comic Geek Kev is next. He says, now they're calling O General? This should have been in my nose too. I've been asleep at the wheel this week. I'm sorry, people. Yeah, I hated this. Okay, let me explain. I hate this from last week. I like that they called her General now, but why the didn't they call her General last week?
That's a good question. I do not have any answers for you.
Lazy writing / bad directing / not paying attention / asleep at the wheel.
Hand wave.
Yeah.
Plot hole, hand wave. I really like James's hand wave emojis.
Yes. Yeah.
That's how I feel about a lot of things, these 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had a first episode planned out and a last episode planned out. and they just kind of were like, how can we get there? And then just did willy-nilly whatever they wanted to make it happen instead of letting the story progress naturally and or planning it out better from the get-go. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Ugh.
You know what I keep thinking about? And we've said it before, the novel,
Yeah.
so much better than this first season.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see all 10 episodes together, and I compare this to The Last Best Hope, that book was better than the season in general. Now, this season had some really good points in it.
It did.
But it was uneven, and I think the last 2 episodes were a disappointment to me.
Super uneven. And that's, I mean,
Yeah.
And why? Why was it so uneven? I've seen plenty of shows that had a knockout first season, and I just don't understand.
I think that they were still writing it up to the end. I mean, that's why they did what they did, switching the first 2 to the first 3 and all that. I think they never quite recovered from that. But I think that they could have done a lot to extend, like even if they had done some more work on that 9th episode, I think the 10th episode would have been better just because the 9th episode was better.
Yeah.
But
well, I don't know. I can't come up with any reasons to why the first season was as bad as it was. But I mean, if you really step back and look at it, there were so many plot holes. There were so many times where we were like, well, it was that way because it was. Mm-hmm. I don't accept that. I feel like I deserve more. And I don't know who I said this to. Maybe it was just you in chat. But to me, it seems like, and same thing with Discovery, there were these people who were like, ooh, I want to do a Star Trek show. Mm-hmm. And then they really got into it and they were like, oh, and realized I'm in over my head. And I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so we get this dumpster fire for a first season. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the first season of Discovery, but there were a lot of problems with it.
There were.
Same thing here. And I really just, I want to shake somebody and be like, okay, Michael Chabon, you really wanted to do a Star Trek. Well, do better. We deserve better.
And to me, I think that there is, when I compare them, I was thinking about this yesterday. I think that if I'm comparing season 1 of Discovery to season 1 of Picard, I'm going to give the edge to season 1 of Picard, because the way that Discovery started was really rough. And yes, it recovered, but those first 2 or even 3 episodes were so like just off that the show never completely recovered. And that last episode wasn't that great either. But there were some great episodes in there. I mean, I love the whole mirror universe stuff, but anyway, so I would give the edge to Picard, but if I'm comparing Picard season 1 to Discovery season 2, no question whatsoever, the far better show, Discovery season 2, by a lot.
Yeah. I feel like they actually took time to think things out.
Yes. I mean,
I'm not sure I could honestly give the edge to Discovery, really. Or I mean Picard, because there are so many issues in just these last 2 episodes. And I told you how I've already said many times how I felt about the first 3. So to me, that was a rough start that it was hard to come back from for me. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be wowed and knocked out of the park. And instead I was like, huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Continuing. Okay. Getting back to Comic Geek Kev. He says, I would have liked to see some interaction between Narissa and Picard. I wouldn't have minded that, but we never really got any scenes that would have put them together. So I would agree with you, but then again, maybe if she survived the 300 death.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The 300 jumping off the rail thing.
Yeah. Picard is a synth. No real surprise after last episode, but they aren't going to give him the augmentations. Boo. I get the in-universe reasoning. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of glad we don't have Super Picard. That would have been kind of silly.
That would have been weird. Yeah. And it would have been hard for a man of his age to play.
Right. And why would it be a surprise that the brain abnormality would be gone? He no longer has that brain. Well, indeed.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Well, and talk about another thing being hand waved. They still hand waved that brain abnormality. They never really explained what the hell it was. So,
Yep.
I'm sure the producers are ready for the fanboy backlash with Seven and Raffi holding hands. It's completely unnecessary for the show to do this, but honestly, who cares? Besides the people whose heads are going to explode. Well, I mean, you could say that our heads exploded, but it wasn't, again, it wasn't set up. So it
My head didn't explode. I just rolled my eyes.
Well, that's a good way to put it. It could have been set up a lot better and it would have gone over better. Edwin from Arizona says Girardi gets no punishment. And I would agree. I mean, if you listen to Chabon, he would explain that one, says that she is going to be punished, but we just don't see it on screen. So,
So in other words, he goes hand wave, hand wave.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. That seems to be his MO. Anyway. All right. Brian from Hawaii says, as much as I loved seeing Riker in uniform commanding a ship, it felt artificial. First, how did he have time to leave Nepenthe, get put on active duty, briefed, take command of the fleet's flagship, and then travel to the android planet in just a few hours? Even if there were time for all of that somehow, why would Starfleet let him do it? I don't buy it. Visually, the ships he was leading looked really fake. There were way, way too many of them, and there was no diversity in the types of ships represented there. I didn't believe it was real. Finally, after the Romulans left, why did Riker and Fleet just warp away immediately without even having some of them stay behind to deal with the first contact situation on the planet? Which is why they had been summoned in the first place. Why did Riker leave it in Picard's capable hands when Picard is not even able to officially represent the Federation in such matters anymore?
Yes. All of that. All of that I agree with 100%, Brian. And,
yep.
You know, I think I'm kind of showing my fatigue this week because I'm not, these are things that I would have thought of saying, but since you said them, I didn't try to say them. But yes, did it look fake? Well, it certainly looked fake that they were all the same. I also don't buy him getting placed into that. Yes, the only way I could see it is if maybe Riker put in a call to Clancy after Picard left and got the ball rolling, knowing,
maybe.
You know, so if that was the case, then yes, I could see it, but
yeah,
there was no dialogue to suggest that anything like that happened. So I just, you know.
And I wonder, since he called him Admiral Picard, does that mean that he was reinstated?
I don't think so.
Because Raffi referred to him as Admiral Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
Retired. I mean, you could hear the comma.
Yeah, comma retired, yeah.
So I was wondering if, I mean, was he just, I don't know. That's, to me, that was the only way that it would have made sense for he and the entire fleet to have just been like, all right, deuces, and just taken off.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, like, you're right. He can't officially represent the Federation because he's retired.
Right.
So, I mean, he did at one point in time ask for reinstatement, but did that ever happen?
Well,
I don't know.
He got that special credential, but that was only for the Borg cube, and that was only for 24 hours, and that was basically effective while he was on the cube and while he was off the cube. So you know, that was it, and it was only for one purpose, to meet Hugh. That was it. So so it was as limited as possible. So yeah, unless Clancy, you know, gave him that in that other episode, then, you know, maybe, but I don't really see it. So
doesn't seem likely to me.
No.
But so you're right. All right. He goes on to say, the imagination device that does whatever one thinks is not explained well and doesn't seem to belong on a mostly science-based show like Star Trek.
I think I said that about 10 minutes ago.
I think I also said that. So amen, brother. You are correct, sir. Except for most of these, I would have gladly given most of these not good enoughs instead of no's, but as I said, my patience is up. So they get no's instead of not good enoughs. All right, my final not good enough involves Data's eyes. Why do they look so strange? It can't just be due to the lighting. Otherwise, he looks pretty close to how he looked in Nemesis. I don't understand why they couldn't get the eyes right. I did not feel like it was the eyes. To me, it was the hair that was making him just a tad off.
Yeah.
And his face looked slightly rounder than usual.
It did.
So maybe it's just a combination of things, and you zeroed in on the eyes, whereas I zeroed in on the hair and the face. It wasn't exactly right. But then what are you going to do? I mean, that was a long time ago, and he's not that young anymore. I mean, he's not as young as he was when he made that. So I think overall they did a pretty good job, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of an uncanny valley when I was looking at him. I was like,
yeah.
Oh.
And some of that you could understand because it was a simulation, but at the same time, you know, like, I don't know. I didn't really have a problem with the scene, and I guess maybe I need to have another look at it on my computer monitor here where I can see that kind of detail up closer, but I didn't get a chance to watch it again today like I was planning. So, okay, well, next is Steve from your neck of the woods, OKC. He says, not seeing the reunion scene when our grieving characters meet the newly golemed Picard.
Yeah. I mean, they were crying a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of sucked for them.
Yeah. Rick from Cleveland is next. What happened to the remaining XBs? I assume they have made a home on this planet with the synths. A line or two of dialogue is all we needed for this. That goes for Narek as well. We last see him in hand-to-hand combat with synths while Soji is starting up the beacon. He's not even referenced after this. Again, a simple line of dialogue. Narek's in custody awaiting trial. The a-hole boyfriend disappeared. A little something to close the loop is all we needed. I totally agree. Everything you said there, 100%, I agree. That was all stuff, missed opportunities, and that's why, for me, it was only an 8. Wait a minute, I gave it an 8.5. No, okay, I'll switch now to an 8.
I didn't care. I didn't miss him, and I wasn't upset that they didn't say what happened to him.
Yeah, I mean,
I imagined he fell off a cliff, and I didn't even care.
Yeah.
He joined his sister at the bottom of the board cube.
It just felt, I don't know, this one, the last 2 episodes really felt rushed to me in terms of writing. They could have done a lot more with them, and they both fell short for me. That's all I can say. Like, you compare this to episode 7, by the way, episode 7 to me was probably, like, aside from the first episode, which I did give a 10, that was as good as you could get on here. And after that, 9.8 or episode 8, not as good, but the last 2 really not good at all. So I just really disappointed in the last 2 episodes. They could have stuck the landing, and instead it was almost like the the gymnast doing the twirl off the uneven bars and, lands flat on her face or something. It wasn't that bad, but, a stumble, significant reduction.
Yep.
Is what we got.
Yep. Although I must say, I did think that that they should have said something about the XBs.
They should have. I don't know why they didn't. Again, I agree 100%.
Plot hole hand wave.
2 lines there, one to deal with the XBs, one to deal with Narek. It wouldn't have cost them any time. They could have done it in the same amount of time. They just didn't do it. Or like, even like, show them in the background, or show them, being like Narek being taken off into custody, or like, have some Starfleet out there and they take him away or something. I don't know. It's just not good.
Nope.
And the other
thing's not good.
Yeah. And I didn't like either that all the starships just took off after the end. Like, yeah, I get why the Romulans did, but the Federation, no way.
Yeah. Nope. I agree.
I mean, what if those aliens came back I mean, what if they somehow got through?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yep.
Which was disappointing.
And for that matter, I thought that I have this in my not good enough, but it fits here. Like Picard and the team should have stayed behind at least a few days to teach the synths, and instead, here's this.
Maybe they did, but they didn't bother to show us.
And we didn't see it.
Which is, again, the reason why this was rushed. I mean, if they had made the first episode or the first 3 episodes too, they would have had a whole extra episode to work out all these little problems.
Yeah.
But whatever. Nobody asked me. They let the supposedly Pulitzer Prize winning authors who I don't know what they... Anyway.
Well, Pulitzer and Oscar.
Whatever. They suck. I'm sorry. They did not do a good job. I don't care what kind of prizes they won. They did not do a good job here.
And they didn't win for this. So
I know. But I guess that just proves my point. Just because you're a prize-winning author doesn't mean you're going to do a good job with Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
I'm disappointed. All right. LT from NC says, I still wonder whose side Dear Doc Aggie is on. I did enjoy the Camping with Narek segment, but the continuity of that seemed off to me.
Yeah, it did.
In what way? Explain.
Well, the continuity, like the fact, I think what he means is that they seem familiar, to each other, and they weren't. That was one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the whole, I have it in my not good enough, but he mentions before Vulcan. Like, so in other words, the Romulans, we know that the Romulans originally were on Vulcan, but it sounds like the Vulcans weren't originally on Vulcan either. So in other words, the Romulans and Vulcans showed up on Vulcan at some point, and then at some point the Romulans left Vulcan, which we know. But
you mean the Vulcans showed up on Vulcan at one point,
right?
And
exactly.
The Romulans took off later,
right? Exactly. So the Vulcans weren't from Vulcan.
At one point in time, they were all Vulcan.
Exactly. But he mentions the point about before Vulcan. So in other words, the Vulcans were somewhere else.
And why isn't this part of their mythos?
Exactly.
I don't know. I see what you're saying, but I don't know.
It is not logical.
It's illogical. Illogical. All right. The approach of the Romulan fleet ended up feeling like watching Lancelot charge across the field in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. That's funny. Oh my gosh. And how many times did O give the order to prepare to fire? It's a good question.
Quite a few times.
But, we had to delay, so plot hole hand wave, plot device shield. Plot device shields up. Plus, we know she's a traitor and that she was involved with the Mars attack, and so we just let her go?
Yeah, well, I mean...
I didn't like that. I have to agree. That was pretty... hey, weren't you supposed to be the Commodore of Security at Starfleet? What are you doing on that Romulan ship?
Well, and for that matter, I would think that there should be a whole, investigation on how did this happen exactly. They put this Jat Vache leader on, as the director of security, the supposed head of security, and yet nothing. So,
yep, yet another dangling plot thread that will just hand wave away. So Soong had a kill switch for Sutra. Might have been a good thing to know last week.
Yep.
And yeah. And on the same topic, didn't anyone have the idea to check the dead synth's memory to see if they could check her last visual record? Or did it take the plot urge to make that happen?
Pretty much the plot urge.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I don't think that they had enough time last week to do that, but...
Yeah, but why? We're going to wipe out all organics based on the word of someone who we think... obviously they didn't know at that time that she killed Saga, but still, we're just going to snap decision this because we're assuming, again, we're not going to use our android brains for logic. We're going to make assumptions that crazy a-hole Romulan boyfriend who ran off is the one who did it. When they have perfect capability of checking her, or I should say they're perfectly capable of checking her memory and her visual records, but yet, no, we're going to go with this plan. We're going to wipe out all organics without bothering to verify anything.
Why would we look at anything? Why would we bother? You know?
I don't know. To verify? I don't know.
Makes you wonder. Could have been
The
better.
other nagging,
Definitely.
yeah, they should have done better. The other nagging question is, so what about the cube partially loaded with XBs? Are they going to hang out with the Dr. Soong and the synths now?
They should.
Maybe. I mean, it might take them a while to fix the cube. I don't know. It looked pretty broken. All right, speaking of the XBs, did anyone else wonder how that leg of the story just seemed to fizzle out into a load of unresolved questions?
Yep.
I saw that. He says, I also want to know if the magic fixer thingamajig still works and if it will be our go-to Deus Ex Machina in future episodes.
Oh yeah, that's right. They still have it on the ship, so
Yep. And be like, oh, this thing is broken. Hey, where's that magic fixer? The use your imagination drive. Plus, I forgot about saying it last week. Eyeballs! Why with the eyeballs?
I'm just surprised nobody mentioned that last week. You're slipping, LT.
Yep. Slipping.
All right. Well, it's time for our not good enoughs, and I've already said the not good enoughs that I had. So what do you have?
All my not good enoughs were no's.
Okay. So let's move on to open hailing frequencies. And it's time for our feedback section. And we've got voicemails galore. So here's our first one from Jeff X Force 11.
Hello, Star Trek fans. An emotional Jeff X Force 11 leaving my feedback about the last episode of this season. While I greatly enjoyed the closing of this episode, and we kind of all saw where it was going with the Golem and Picard being put into that body, I do think it was a fitting end to bring closure and bring finality in life. I like the fact that we did get to mourn JL, and that didn't seem cheap because they didn't know if it would be successful and they didn't know if it would really be him. And I like the fact that we got the emotional weight of those scenes. I'm not very sure that I kind of like where they took Rafi and Seven in that parting scene that we got, because I really want to see her connect back with her family. And I don't know if I want to see a relationship between those two. But I did like how this gives us an avenue to adventure that is not solely Starfleet based, but Starfleet adjacent with this crew, and I'm interested to see it. I did really enjoy getting to see Riker in uniform, and hopefully this is not the final time we'll get to see him back in action, because I really would have liked to see a spinoff of that group, and so hopefully we can see some exploits of this major character in season 2. But enjoyed the series overall, much better than last episode, and I am looking forward to seeing what's next. All right, until Discovery is back, X-Force 11 is out.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, X-Force 11, for your voicemail. Some good points you made. I thought that it was a fitting end to Picard. I think Picard as a synth, especially the way that they've, had the whole story, I think it works, and he can definitely champion them better as one himself.
As one, yeah. The only reason I did not have a problem with it was hearing their reasoning for it in the Ready Room, watching the Ready Room, and I think they said something very similar to what you just said about it's easier for him, I should say, to advocate for them if he is one himself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why ultimately I didn't really have a problem with it, but I do see the issues.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned their mourning. I mean, it was only tainted by the fact that I was pretty sure that by the end we were going to see Picard in that, you said Golem?
Golem.
Okay.
Long O.
Long O.
James said hard O, but he meant long O.
So it was undermined by that, but I mean, at the same time, I liked it too. It wasn't just kind of swept under the rug, but they swept so much other stuff under the rug that, like the XBs and like what happened in Narc and all that stuff. Just don't know why they left that off. You made a good point, Jeff, in like you mentioned that you didn't like the Rafi 7 thing, but you brought up a good reason why. That is not just because of the same-sex couple, but Rafi and her ex, and of course her son Gabe. Like I agree with you that I would have much rather seen some kind of resolution with her son, not so much the ex.
Yep.
I don't, her ex is one thing, but the son. I wanted to see a scene near the end where maybe like Gabe sends a picture of his new baby or whatever, some kind of contact with them, but we don't see that. So that was kind of a letdown to me. Maybe we'll see that at the beginning of season 2. That would be a good way for the season 2 to start. But our next bit of feedback is a voicemail from Cyberman. Hi, Cyberman.
Hi, Brian and Ruthie. This is Cyberman for Star Trek Picard, the season finale. Wow, well, I did a lot of crying. That's all I can say. And I could have used more Riker. There's nothing more satisfying than to hear Riker on the bridge of a ship say, "I'm going to kick your treacherous Telshar ass." Probably my only criticism could be that I think parts 1 and 2 could have been distributed a little better. I could have used a little bit more of the resolution in part 1. I just think it was resolved a little too quickly. But in the end, I'm thrilled that we're going to have a season 2. I really like the crew. And I was parked on the street in San Francisco in Divisadero Street. And I'm talking to my boss on the phone. And who comes walking down the street but Michael Chabon, the showrunner of Star Trek Picard. So, of course, being a fangirl, I immediately said, "Oh, my God, that's Mike Chabon," threw my boss to the floor and talked to him. And he was very gracious, very lovely. We had a nice little chat. It was a great fangirl. I fangirled all over. It was a great fangirl moment. Just wanted to say it was fun. Anyway, I actually met the showrunner just by sheer happenstance. And after all, which is a better priority, my boss or the showrunner of Star Trek Picard? Well, I made my choice, and it was the showrunner. Anyway, it was absolutely fun. So really looking forward to your finale chat. And anyway, you guys have a great day.
Well, thank you so much, Cyberman, for your voicemail. Good to hear from you again. And cool.
That was amazing.
It's cool that you got to talk to Chabon.
Yeah.
I will give him
I'm very excited for you.
I will say that I have really appreciated his presence on Instagram, responding to, he's answered several of my questions, but it's not just me. He's answered hundreds of questions, not always, with good answers, but a lot of them have been good answers. And some of it'll say, he said stuff like, well, we had a scene and it didn't quite work, or, we had something that had to get cut because of something, or whatever. But, so I do appreciate the attempt that he's been making, though, reaching out to fans and answering questions, because most showrunners don't do that at all. So I do appreciate the effort. I really do.
I do too. And I'm glad that you were the one that met him and not me, because I'm not sure I would have had anything to say.
You not have something to say? I would have thought you're always good meeting people.
No, I
meeting
am,
him.
But, yeah, I mean, what I mean to say is I wouldn't have anything to say, because right now all I have to say are negative things.
I getcha.
So I would have had to have been like, "Hey, it's nice to meet you."
Yeah,
oh my God.
You mentioned, Cyberman, that you've done a lot of crying, but I didn't really hear what you were crying about. If it was the end of the show, or Picard dying, or what. But All right. Next bit of feedback is our good friend for the second time tonight, Fred from the Netherlands.
Yay!
Hello, Brian and Ruthie, and all listeners to Talk Through Media. This is Fred from the Netherlands with some feedback for Star Trek Picard, Season 1, Episode 10, the Season 1 finale. Well, first I want to come back to last week's podcast. Man, were the two of you negative about that episode. You really should listen back to the no's and not good enough section, and actually also to the yes section, because that was limited. A lot of complaints, a lot of sighs, and I actually got a little bit depressed just by listening to you. How awful and bad this episode was. Actually, I gave it a 9.2, but whatever. Okay, about the season finale. Normally, I'm not always in the position to give audio feedback in time, but for this finale, I did extra my best to get an audio feedback done in time. I watched the episode already twice, once with my wife, and I made a little note, and on that note there are already 48 moments that I thought that were visually nice or very important scenes in the episode where I thought, okay, that is a moment I have to catch. So this will give a lot of screenshots this episode. I also watched The Ready Room with Will Wheaton, and in this case with Patrick Stewart and Alison Pill. Well, I like that Alison Pill a lot more than Agnes Jurati. Agnes is, okay, she does a very nice job. If you see how she really is and you compare it to her acting, then her acting is quite nice. But in her role as Agnes, I find her too insecure, too jittery. And in that sense, the scene where she wakes up Picard and says she's a better secret agent than she thought was very, very nice. But as a head of its research department or research institute, I think she should be a more secure person. So I don't like Agnes Jurati, but I do like, after this Ready Room, Alison Pill. Well, you got your answer on your nitpick about Commodore, because Riker says Commodore General or whatever, 2-0. And in this period of time, the word lockdown has, of course, a very heavy meaning. And it was said by Narek when he was talking to Raffi, Rios, and I think Elnor in La Sirena. I like the concept, very nice, that our beloved Picard is a synth now. And I really wonder what will happen to AI Sung, not for nothing AI. I think the golem was meant for Ultron, but he donated it to Picard. That's actually not completely clear to me. And will he make another golem for himself? I got the impression it was for him. And that was, of course, a big gesture towards Picard to give him this golem. Although in the discussion with Data in that dream, he didn't like Ultron Sung that much. But I think that's changed now. Okay, time is up, so I had a lot more to say, but you just have to look at my screenshots, and that's what I have to say then. Greetings, thank you very much for this 10 weeks ride, Ruthie and Brian. We did a lot of work, and especially, of course, you did a lot of work with a lot of sleep deprivation, so big respect for the both of you. Greetings, all the best, Fred from the Netherlands.
Thank you, my friend. Good to hear from you on this final episode. We talked to Fred a lot during the week, so it's just good to hear from you on this one. And you know what? Yes, last week we were pretty negative, and I listened to it more than once. I mean, you know, while I was editing for sure, but I usually listen to the episodes to make sure that there's no, you know, problems that we need, you know. So there have been rare occasions where I've either left something in that I shouldn't have left in, or there was just a problem with the audio and I have to go in and fix it. So I always make sure when I'm the editor of the episode to make sure that I listen to it all the way through. And I actually listened to this one more than once, and I don't have any regrets for anything that I said, and I know damn well Ruthie doesn't.
Nope, I don't.
And
I don't feel bad. I mean, I feel bad that I was negative for you guys, but I don't feel bad about what I said at all.
I don't think we were piling on.
I stand by it.
Yeah, I think everything that we said about that episode was right. Like, it wasn't a question. Like, you could say, okay, well, this didn't bother me so much. I get that. But I think all the things that we brought up were legitimate grievances. So I can't dispute anything. If anything, I think I'm going to look back at this episode when I'm editing and go, why the hell did I mention that? Because like you said, Fred, yes, I'm tired. I haven't been sleeping very well this week. I
was going to say, he's the one who's sleep deprived.
Yeah, and especially this week, I didn't sleep very well at all. That's why I'm kind of run down like I am, and I'm not really as sharp as I usually am when I'm doing these episodes. I'm just really tired, and had a long week at work, and yeah, so I'm just a little out of it this week, but I'm just a little down myself, and I'm down on myself, but that's okay. I'll get over it. Hey, Brian, shut up. Anyway, for me, this episode didn't work because of missed opportunities. And I think there were a lot of missed opportunities last week, but I think there were problems last week, whereas this one is missed opportunities than anything. So many things that they could have done, some little lines here, little lines there. You know, why the hell make all the ships the same? Yep. The only ones that made sense that were all the same were all the ones that she made with the magic thingamadoo.
Haha.
You know, I don't think they were actual ships, right? They were just like sensor ghosts or something, but I think maybe they were. But then if they were, who was captaining them?
No, they were sensor ghosts.
Yeah. So I did like the line, Commodore, General, whatever. I noticed that the captions called her General Nadar or Nedar, Nedar, but I don't think I heard it actually spoken, but I did notice it in the captions.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. And the golem was for Soon, and I think he was only going to use it because the organics were going to get wiped out.
No, I think he was going to use it because he was getting old.
Okay. It's not that old, though.
No, but I'm pretty sure he said something to that effect. Like, he's the old gray mare. She ain't what she used to be.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Fred, for your voicemail and for everything you do for us. All right. Our next feedback is Edwin from Arizona.
Hello, Brian and Ruthie. This is Edwin from Arizona. First off, I want to say thank you so much for having me be a part of your guys' podcast and Facebook group. I mean, you guys really welcomed in. I'd like to consider myself like a new member and even a new, I don't want to say new Star Trek fan, but I haven't watched Star Trek since Next Generation. And then, kind of fell off, I guess, the Star Trek train for a while. Voyager and Deep Space Nine were kind of okay, but I really didn't keep up. But then I started watching the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, and then when Picard came out, it was just like a spark, lit up in me, obviously, and I was just wanting to also connect with some fans, obviously, because I don't really have anybody to talk to about Star Trek. And wow, what a ride! I mean, you guys did a good job. I mean, it sounds like I'm leaving or something. Maybe I'll give a Discovery a shot. I watched a little bit, and I know you guys have a podcast for that as well. But I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I hope you guys are doing well in these times. But my feedback is just it was kind of weird because I watched this final finale, and maybe I had too much expectations. I'm more of a movie guy reviewer, and so the first time I watched it, I was kind of, I don't want to say let down. It was just kind of, you guys know how high I was on this episode before that. So I had to watch it a few times, and my rating went up. And then I started thinking, yeah, this is Star Trek. It's not about a big epic battle. I'm not thinking like a big dogfight at the end like Star Wars. But the real core, I mean, yeah, Picard was there. Beta showed up. Riker. So I got everything I wanted out this season, and obviously some new characters, like Shoji and Rios and Rafi and even Dr. Girardi. So yeah, I mean, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I mean, yeah, the editing or making it longer, the episodes or the whole season probably would have helped a lot. But it's been a good ride. I just want to give that feedback. I don't really have any questions. There's a lot to unpack, but I just want to thank you guys, and hopefully I'll see you guys again. All right, bye.
Well, thank you so much for that voicemail, and you are so welcome, Edwin. It was good to have you on board, and thank you so much for all those kind words. We really appreciate it.
We're glad that you found us too, and we think you should definitely try Discovery. I think I can safely speak for both of us.
Yes, I would agree. And I think it's worth saying that, yes, Picard is ending. So if you like listening to us, the thing I would recommend would be to join our Patreon, because we're going to keep doing Patreon episodes. It's been, about a month since we did the last one, I think. But we're going to do some regular Patreon, I'd say at least one a month. But I think given the stuff that's going on, I think we might do some extra stuff with that. But we haven't really talked about it. But only $1 a month gets you access to those podcasts. So consider it, people. It's at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. Helps out cover the costs of the podcast, and you'd be helping us out by doing that. And the ones that are in the Patreon group are a little closer to us. They've tended to get, spots on the in round tables and things like that too. So that's just worth saying. Can't do it, you can't do it. But we're gonna have some more content coming out. We're not gonna completely go dark. Right now, I think the last thing that I want to do is completely go dark. I think I kind of need to podcast right now. So I'm going to keep doing it somehow, if Ruthie will join me and make sure that we don't go nuts.
Of course I will.
Yeah.
I'm working from home now too.
Well, one thing I thought about us doing was all right. So actually, one thing that we haven't talked about is the network is going to continue with some Star Trek content. So coming soon is a podcast that Kim from San Diego will be doing. Won't be on our feed, but it'll be on another feed within the network. And it is, I believe they're calling it Rebinge DS9, I think is what it's going to be called. So,
all right.
Yeah. So that's with Kim and her husband. I can't remember his name. Sorry. But anyway, you
just call him Mr. Kim.
Mr. Kim. There you go. I'll get some sleep and I'll be okay. So anyway, Kim has a voicemail. So let's play that one now.
Hey, Brian and Ruthie. This is Kim from San Diego with feedback on the season finale of Picard. I've never given you audio feedback before, so let's see how this goes. I really didn't like the last 2 episodes, and my rating for this one is 3 made-up devices that can do anything out of 10. My not good enoughs are, first, they give Picard an android body and just make it old like he already is. All I could think was, try harder, people. Why not just use the synth tech to fix his brain rather than trying to explain away why he's still old? That took me right out of the whole story and right at the end as well. My second not good enough is, why didn't Commodore O and Fleet just start shooting at Synthville? That was way too hand-wavy for me. She had plenty of opportunity to do that. My last not good enough is, it didn't feel like a great use of Riker, unlike his previous appearance. My nose, first of all, I found it just, I don't know how else to say it, but idiotic to think that Data, essentially a computer program who does not recognize the passage of time, would want to be killed. That just really made no sense to me. Number 2, there were not enough space elf fight scenes. Love him. Number 3, that stupid purple device that can fix anything in your imagination, like something out of a children's book. I'll close with my yeses, since I feel like I've been pretty negative up till this point. First of all, 7 winning the battle with Narissa, that was great. But Narissa is an awesome villain, so I hope we haven't seen the last of her. And then my last yes is I'm pretty happy that 7 survived the season since they were killing people left and right. So I was very happy that she was still standing at the end. That's it for my feedback. Thanks, guys, for a great podcast this season. Kim from San Diego, out.
Well, thank you so much, Kim, for that voicemail. Great voicemail, by the way. And if you think we're negative people, Kim gave it a 3.
I cannot be mad at that, though. She's spot on.
Yeah, everything you said, Kim.
Yep. And I just want to say this right now. I take no joy in being as mad as I am right now. I hate it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I deserve better as a fan. I mean, don't just throw up any old shite and call it Star Trek and think I'm just gonna gush, because I can't.
I still am. I talked about this actually on the Earl Grey episode that I did on Trek FM about a month ago. And I still question myself from about 25 years ago and say to myself, why didn't I just go to LA when I had the chance to pitch the Star Trek? Because my whole life could have been different. And for that matter, you could be watching better Star Trek right now and I wouldn't be doing a podcast about it.
Well, I would be sad.
Yeah, I know.
But I wouldn't have known any better.
Because you would be there with me. You'd be my partner in crime. I would have found you somehow. We'd be executive producers together.
Yep.
But that's the thing, is that I've run into this again with this show where I look at it and say, I could have written something better than this. And, there was a lot that I enjoyed about the season, but just especially those last 2 episodes, I'm pretty sure I could have written a better story than what we got. So, I kick myself 25 years ago, Brian. Don't be nervous. Just go to LA for 3 weeks and say, what the hell? And just try. Take your pitch in the office like you should have, you stupid idiot. And my life may be completely different, or it could have been exactly the same. But the problem is, that's the problem, though. I don't know. So,
yep, you just don't know.
Yeah, and I could have been throwing F-bombs on Star Trek Picard. Anyway. But yeah, your point about why didn't they just start shooting? Yeah, it's like, well, stand the countdown, just start shooting. It was very, James Bond, like I say, James Bond villain. I used that earlier this season, didn't I?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. So do you have anything else you want to say?
No, but I feel your pain. That's it.
All right. We've got one more voicemail, and this is from Brian from Hawaii. And I haven't had a chance to listen to this one, so he's got some written feedback as well. So we'll see how it fits together.
Hi, Brian and Ruthie. This is Brian from Hawaii. I just wanted to say thank you very much for having the Picard Cast. I've really enjoyed listening to you two again, hearing feedback each week from all the listeners, and just diving deep into this show, which I know we all love. It's not what I expected it. It's different, but that's okay. I'm really optimistic about the future of this show and where Picard is going to go with his new crew, and happy to go on that journey with you. So again, thanks a lot. Bye.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brian from Hawaii, my fellow Brian. And anyway, I really do appreciate, the reaction that we're getting from some of our listeners here, appreciating us for everything we do. And this is the type of podcast we wanted to do, not surface, not, but go in there with you, the listener, and share, like we all kind of collectively come up with, this is what the show is, right? It's not us, it's you and it's us together, and we're all kind of watching it and all trying to figure it out. I don't have any, well, sometimes I do. Both of us do like it when we get something right or when we're right about something, but I like it when our listeners get something right too. And I love this conversation that we have with our listeners. It makes me feel good. So,
Yep.
All right. So we've got a little bit of written feedback from Brian. He says, this was such a fitting end to a season that tracked a redemption arc for Jean-Luc Picard. I really didn't like the Picard in the early episodes, both as written and as depicted. Yes, we know, Brian. But slowly he woke up and seemed to regain his sense of self and purpose as the story progressed. I didn't expect Picard to die this season, let alone get reborn in an android body. So the writers have definitely kept me guessing with the plot, and I like that. I can't wait to see what awaits Picard and his motley crew in the next season. And I'm happy to see that for now, Seven is a part of his crew as well. I do hope we get to see Picard make amends for past mistakes and patch up relationships with other characters we might know from other series going forward. I can't wait to find out.
Yeah. I don't understand this because he was depicted as he was written. So sorry. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't, well, we've talked about it at
I know.
length. So
We're all beating the same dead horse, but every time you guys bring it up, I'm going to bring it up too. So if you don't want me to talk about it anymore, stop bringing it up.
if anything, I had more problems with the way it was written at the start. And
I had problems with the way it was written. I still have problems with the way it was written. I don't have any problems with the actors. I think they are doing as they have been instructed.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next is Derek from Dublin. He says, this was a significantly better episode than part one. I'm delighted that the resolution came down to a more thoughtful, introspective, and emotional end. Derek, I have to agree with you on that. Like I said, my issues with it just were some missed opportunities there. But the whole of it, the way it came down to giving Soji the choice and Picard kind of giving his life for them, I thought were very Star Trek and definitely did work for me. So I agree with you.
I agree that I did like the, how did he say, teaching by example?
Yeah.
Proving once again that he does understand children. And I mean, there were aspects that I really enjoyed, but there was too much I didn't, unfortunately. I also liked that his wanting to show her how it could be thing. All right. James, the Augmented Sailor, says the finale for this season was fitting, other than the issues I pointed out above, and I really think they should have had it as a single long episode. I know that's what they were trying to convey, having it as a part 1 and part 2, but part 1 was just so bad that having a gap between them was just, in my opinion, a poor choice on Chabon's part. I could go on and on here about this show as a whole, but I'll try to stick with just the episode. I really do wish we could have seen the Enterprise and Captain Worf. It wouldn't have been forced in. They could have just as easily had him appear at the standoff as Riker, and honestly, it would have been more logistically feasible since he's a standing captain and currently serving aboard ship. Overall, this episode was able to get me practically bawling had our teenage daughter not been in the room, and redeemed the show from the prior debacle. I just hope that future seasons of the show answers the many questions this season created. I'm assuming and hoping that Kurtzman is smart enough to catch that what Chabon has given us this season is not finished, and that this story is just too big for one season. Yes, they capped off the season, but certain aspects of the story still need to be fleshed out. I'm back off the ledge with this finale, guys, for now. Hope you are too.
Somewhat. For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't jumped off, but I'm still on the ledge.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Thanks for that. I agree with you on the Captain Worf stuff. I think it would have been better, but you know, it's already been said. I just I don't know why they have to make all the ships the same. I just don't. another huge opportunity lost. So
cheap budget equals cheap show.
yeah. Comic Geek Kev is next. He says, so right off the bat, we get more Elnor and Seven. I could almost be happy to end it here. But seeing Frakes in the opening credits immediately makes me super curious, so I guess I'll watch the rest. I guess he was writing this as he was going. Then it looks like at the end, he says, the show ended pretty much like I thought it would. I didn't expect to see a long scene with Data. I do miss that character, and I think Spiner did a great job bringing him back to the screen. It was nice to see Picard have a chance to say goodbye to Data properly, and now he can grieve for him. Kev, completely agree with your points there. I didn't expect Data to show up, but I guess it made sense for him to show up, especially if Picard was in some kind of holding pattern. So, yeah, I like that scene. We didn't really talk too much about it yet. So good on you for bringing it up.
Yeah, I agree. I liked it.
Yeah. And it was very cool to see all of them on the bridge. It'd be good to see this iteration of the crew in the next season, or have Seven and Elnor spin off to a Rangers show. I mean, that may happen. We'll see about that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's like the unnamed show that they haven't said yet. So we'll see. And how do you end the season without Engage? Answer, you don't. Yeah, well, they need to make it so.
Uh-huh.
I can't wait for Discovery to come back along with your podcast. In the meantime, I'll be waiting for the next Walking Dead pod. Thank you, Kev. Yeah, and I will be back there for the last 2 episodes. I don't know if you know, Ruthie, but the finale got postponed. So they're cutting the Walking Dead an episode short because of the coronavirus. Yeah. So, all right. Todd from Ohio. I really enjoyed it. Picard's a synthetic now. But before that happened, I was going to say, why didn't they use that magic imagination fixer thing? That was a cool device, if a bit too Deus Ex Machina. I like the Data scene, and I now wonder if all the dreams were in this weird quantum space, the way the show played around with time. Looking forward to seeing what they do in season 2. Well, that's interesting.
I thought about that, and I don't think so. I don't know that the show played around with time. I think by Data saying, are you wearing the clothes you had on when you died, is a way of letting us know that all of the times before really were Picard's dreams. That's what I think. Even though he had a vest on that he wasn't wearing. But Data was wearing the clothes that he had on when he died. But then he didn't have those on later. So I don't know. Okay, Rick from Cleveland says, all in, this was a wonderful episode. Perhaps my favorite of the season. It more than made up for a lot of the disappointment that was last week's setup. It had so much emotion and heart in most every scene. I will miss this, perhaps even more than Discovery between seasons, as I think I am more connected to each of these characters than I am those on Discovery. I'm excited for the future with Picard and can't wait to see what's next.
Interesting. I don't know. I don't know if I'm more attached to this or... I mean, I'm certainly more attached to Picard. That goes without saying. But the rest of the characters... Well, Seven. Okay. Seven and Picard, I'm definitely more attached to them than the rest. I do like the main characters that we've got, though. But I would say I'm still much more attached to Burnham and Tilly and Saru and Stamets and Culber and who am I missing? Even the bridge crew there. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing that show again and wish that was actually... I didn't write it down as a no. Damn it. As I said, I'm just out of sorts this week, especially. I'm tired and I'm not at 100%. So sorry, listeners. I'll be okay. Don't worry about me, but well, you can if you want. But my main thing to say is that I was going to give a no to CBS for not getting off the fence and, just saying coming soon. For the show coming soon. That's it. That's all you can offer us is coming soon. So
Yeah.
what I don't understand, like if they're that close to having the season and a good number of episodes maybe aren't fully done, why can't they release, like, do it half and half like they did season 1, you know? If they've got,
I don't know.
if they've got, say, 6 episodes ready.
Are they, I mean, but what is missing? Is it that they haven't finished production, or do they still need to film? That's my thing. I'm like,
yeah, I mean, the thing that I don't know,
they just need to finish like post-production. I'm working from home too.
yeah, and
I'm just kidding.
that is a lot of the, I know there's been delays on that, and I know that those shows that are having to do the post-production are doing it from home, but certain things like the music, I know the music is tougher to do from home, or it's going to have to be done a completely different way, but you can't have like the, 50 part orchestras that they usually have. It's going to have to be like more electronic, or they'll have to do it with different ways of doing it. Anyway, they couldn't do it the normal way that they do it. So it's unfortunate that is true, but it's just a thing.
Yeah.
The visual effects, I know that, also, of course, that can be done from home and people do it from home. But, if they've got big render farms, I mean, there would be a little bit of lag. And if they do a lot of creative, collaboration, it's just, if anything, I think once they're starting to use like these online things that are already there, it's just some companies, some production studios, whatever, they're not used to it. So they don't know how to do it. But I don't know. I think that a lot of it they would have had done. I know that as far as I know, all the main shooting's done. If they had to do any reshoots though, that would be a problem, especially with Sonequa being pregnant. And the last I saw her, she was pretty pregnant, like very much showing at this point.
Very pregnant.
Yeah. So anyway, there's that. Mike from Arizona is next. He says, "Hi, Brian and Ruthie. I just want to say I skipped giving feedback on last week's episode because I was very disappointed. Visually, it was almost like a 24th century LSD trip, or shall I say LDS per Kirk. In terms of the storyline, no amount of LSD could rescue it. It was baffling and just plain weak. I couldn't even give it a rating. Brian, you called it. Picard in a synth body." I did nail that sucker.
You sure did.
And I can't recall who it was from last week's podcast who predicted that they would all become a new crew. But I got problems. Specifically, I got 99 problems, and Synth Picard ain't one of them. That is good. My first problem is, why is Narek still alive? Seriously? You kill off Narissa, the more appealing Romulan, at least Fred would agree, and you keep the Zhat Vash washout? Girardi, you're cute as far as characters go. I'd really like to see you stick around, but why is everybody, Soon included, so willing to trust her so easily? You killed an innocent man, and now Picard and the rest of the crew are harboring a fugitive? That is so not the Picard I want. I can't disagree with that.
I can't either, even though I like her.
Can we just say
No!
to myths about monsters? I'm like, did we really take a turn towards Lord of the Rings during the commercial break? I just watched sci-fi. Not sci-fi fantasy, just sci-fi. Well, this time I'm going to give
As
you...
I like to call it, sci-fantasy.
Yeah. This time I'm going to give you this. Because I agree. Elnor. Poor Elnor. I'm sorry that you were reduced to comedic moments during the season finale. You still have so much potential.
I agree.
Riker. Wonderful bearded Riker. General or Commodore or whatever you're calling yourself. Thank you for that line. Thank you for the line, kicking your treacherous Talsiar ass. Yep. And thank you for giving us Riker in command again. But why would he leave so soon after an engagement? That makes no sense. But the new Starfleet uniform that Riker has with sporting. Oh yeah, looks real nice. Sutra, thank goodness you were killed.
Or at least deactivated.
Yeah. Picard, I wish they spent more time with his death. I would have loved it if they ended the season on his death. And why did Jurati, Soon, and Soji all act like they didn't have a plan B when he was laying on the concrete dying? Why not beam him to a comfortable bed, a lab, or a medical bed?
That's a good question.
I agree. 7. Thank you for kicking Narissa's ass. We didn't get to see enough of this version of 7 in any of the Voyager episodes, so I was very satisfied that they left me wanting more. And you and Raffi and Item, you go, ladies. Orchids. Orchids? Am I the only one seeing a poorly veiled sexual theme? I'm like, is this a space rape with Romulan disruptors penetrating? Well, you get the rest. Oh boy. I just don't know. I just gotta hope they never ever use that again. Can't disagree with you there.
Yeah, I didn't ever like the space orchids.
No, I
to be
detest.
quite frank.
I hate it. And speaking, they were slightly less annoying this episode, but they're still pretty useless. And speaking of the Romulans, why would they have a planetary sterilization number 5 targeting pattern?
Oh my god!
You just need 1, or okay, maybe 2, but 5. Picard, okay, sacrificing your life to teach synths how to live. Maybe I could get behind that idea if I felt confident that there were people left behind to help them to learn. Giving someone an experience does not ensure learning. Something Admiral Picard should know by now. And you couldn't have given her that final advice about trusting her to make the right decision if you were dead. And on another note, you're going to sacrifice your life without telling Jurati?
I know, right? I might like to know that before I got on the ship.
I hadn't thought of that, but that's a good point.
Wait a second. I thought about that a couple times. I was like, I wonder if she knows.
That is a good point. Yeah, Mike, that's good. Wouldn't she be dying too? Can we say moral responsibility? Data. It was great seeing Brent in that role for an extended period of time. He brought back the Data we knew and loved. His death, again, was visually saddening. I wish they had left him alive over the course of seasons so that he and Picard could commune every now and then while Picard adjusted to his new form. Picard's death, again, all I have left to say is why let everyone, the characters that is, think he was dead and there was no hope if they were implanting an image of his brain substrates into a synth body. Again, weak writing that I think was a result of external pressure. Side note, am I the only one who thought that Picard wished he had been given superpowers? His facial expression hinted at a bit of disappointment.
Maybe.
Certainly he would have liked an extra few years, which I agree.
Mm-hmm.
The way this storyline was paced and ended, I want to believe it was an executive decision and not a result of poor or lazy writing. As in CBS/Paramount execs wanting them to end the season on a positive note, thereby forcing the writers to rush most of it, including Picard's death. Picard has a cup of tea and suddenly he's acting like he's a synth all his life. Ugh. Whoever made it, it was a very poor decision. So many missed opportunities because they rushed it. Unfortunately, it was this ending that felt too much like the episodic TNG of old, where every problem was wrapped up in one episode. It was that approach that left me feeling deprived of a good emotional roller coaster that I've come to enjoy with dramatic TV. Thanks, guys, for devoting your podcast to Picard. I really enjoyed every episode, and I'm going to miss listening. Both of you bring a critical examination of the writing and character development that underscores your devotion as lifelong fans. I'm going to miss Ruthie's laugh. It's damn infectious. I can't imagine my Monday mornings without you guys. I will be looking forward to season 3 of Discovery and listening to new weekly episodes from you guys. Take care and stay safe.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You have no idea how nice that is to hear.
Yeah. It really does. You know, it's like I've said, I've been feeling kind of sad the last couple of days, and you guys having such nice things to say, it helps. But thank you guys. We do it for you.
Finally, we have a late grade addition to our feedback. So we're getting everything all at once right now from Nick from Arizona, who says his rating is 10 out of 12 flower grenade balls. Yes, all the feels. No, O doesn't do too great at issuing basic orders or taking care of Picard. She had ample opportunity to destroy the settlement and reason to hurry, but didn't because reasons?
Reasons.
Yep, that's exactly why. Not good enough. Decisions faced by characters didn't seem new or meaningful. Picard put himself at risk, but he had nothing to lose. Everyone else was just along for the ride. Question: what was Data's simulation like? How did it end? Did it change during the time we were there? How did Picard seem? The simulation was, they were basically, I think they were like, he was like, Data was on a couch and Picard was on a chair. Is that right?
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, it looked like maybe in a living room setting, perhaps the living room of his chateau, but
it also
I don't know that
Borg.
for sure. Like, it kind of looked what?
Kind of looked like the Borg cube too at the same time.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it was weird. It was very, like, you could tell it was a simulation. It was very dark. I should say it wasn't very well lit. It was kind of vague, if you will. I mean, you could tell it was a living room, but it could have just as easily been the living room of 227B Baker Street. So, but it wasn't, because it was definitely not like that style of furniture. But I mean, it could have been. Just kind of was a vague living room-ish setting, I think. Or sitting room, if you will, or some kind of thing like that. It ended when a door opened and there was a super bright light, and Picard literally walked through the light. That was funny. And in the first time that Picard was there, it didn't really change. It was just the two of them. But when it showed Data dying, it did change a little bit. There was the song, and it kind of seemed like he was wearing a different outfit rather than the Nemesis outfit, and looked like he was maybe just chilling, drinking scotch or something. But then when he was dying, it was Picard in his Next Generation uniform, the red onesie sort of thing with the collar, not the no collar uniform, before the two pieces, not the one that they had in First Contact or Insurrection or Nemesis, but the one that they had the bulk of the show.
Yeah.
And Data was lying on a couch, and as the simulation was ending, he sort of aged up, and then it kind of just swirled away.
Yeah. Yeah, first he aged up, and then it kind of digitized away.
They both kind of just...
It almost turned into Lego or something.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to describe that, other than it sort of... I mean, it didn't exactly pixelate, but it was the same type of idea as that, but in a more fluid type of way. And like the picture just kind of evaporated, sort of. I don't know. And how did Picard seem? I don't know.
Well, at first, of course, he thought he was dead, and that's what I thought at first, you know. So I was like, okay, are they trying to tell us that there's an afterlife here? Because I guess in his case there is an afterlife, but it's computerized.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of weird, and but it was also kind of good. I mean, I mostly enjoyed it. So.
I think he sort of, he seemed like he was a little bit confused at first, but I think then he was really enjoying his conversation with Data. And I think that he did not want to leave his friend, but he understood what his friend wanted and he was going to go do it. So I think that's how he seemed to me.
Okay. Well, I guess that's it for listener feedback. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, seeing the recap made me realize how much I miss Laris and Chabon.
Yep.
I was like, oh man, I forgot I missed them.
I thought of them too, and I had that in my notes there. I'm wondering what they're going to think of this new Picard, this new version of him. And is he going to go back there? Like, is he going back? Or is he going to bring them along? Or are they just going to keep making the grapes? I don't know, but I would like to see a season 2 with those two. They were a big highlight of the first 3 episodes, and I missed them the rest of the way. So I really would like to see them incorporated more into the story for season 2.
Me too. I was really hoping there was a way that they would come along, but I guess if they came along, there would be no need for Elnor. But then Elnor didn't really do as much as we thought he would. So,
right.
But I must say, I really did. I do enjoy Elnor as a character. I felt bad for him a lot of the times because poor thing, everything is so new and different for him. I think he's dealing with it the best way that he knows how.
Yeah.
Let me think here. I did have one thing that I'm not sure we really mentioned when we were talking about Picard being now in a synth body. I understand why they did that, but unless he's no longer disgraced, I don't really see what kind of impact he can have. Because the last time we heard, yes, he was kind of climbing out of that hole the last time he spoke to Clancy, but I guess that's just another unresolved thing. So I don't know. Yeah.
I'm in a lot of ways, this has been a lot of hard work, but I'm sad for the show to be over. So it's been a hard 10 weeks, but I've enjoyed it. And so anyway.
Me too.
So I mentioned that Chabon had answered more of my questions. This might have been my question. I know I asked something like this. Are there any changes / lessons from viewer reaction that the team is taking into season 2? He said, trust your gut and your partners.
Interesting.
This wasn't mine, but I'm going to read this anyway. Is O indeed half Vulcan and half Romulan? The answer is yes. Her parents were reunificationists, or so her Romulan mother wanted it to be believed.
Interesting.
Why only one class of Federation ship and Riker on Discovery Bridge? Well, it wasn't Riker. This is a question that I asked a question very similar to this. His response was, I believe, but I'm working to confirm that there are actually 4 distinct classes.
He might have wanted it that way, but that's not what happened. The graphics people let you down. Sorry, Michael.
Yeah. When asked again, this might have been the same question. The one I said, what class were those Starfleet ships? Were they the same class? I think that might have been mine. I'll confirm that. Why was Riker captaining the flagship? No reason to ignore or disbelieve his stated explanation. Okay. I think this might have been my question. Was Picard always going to come back as an android? He said, as soon as we focused our attention on the finale.
I don't really remember that being that way, but
Why didn't Jurati try that imagined thingamadoo on Picard to try to fix him? As mine. Hey, what an incredibly versatile power tool. It cuts, drills, sands, welds, and drives nails. Let me use it to circumcise your new baby. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Okay, so let's do our shipwide announcements. There's not going to be much to say. The only thing I have is that on the Ready Room, it was Allison Pill and Patrick Stewart. And they talked about the season and the last episode with Will Wheaton. The Star Trek Picard podcast by Deadline. I have not had a chance to listen to that one yet, but I do know who was on it. Patrick Stewart was on it, and with him on there was Akiva Goldsman, so the director of this episode. So I don't really know what was said on there. As far as the parrots this week, actually Picard was at 7th place this week with 41 million. 6th last week, so it was down a notch. I imagine that next week, because there's always a lag, next week it'll be up, and then probably the week after that it'll be up again, because it kind of the way that it hits, wouldn't have gotten much of the buzz for the finale. Okay, so anyway, that's all I've got. Really don't have much. I know that there's some interviews that Chabon has done, but I haven't had a chance to read them. All right, so anyway, why don't you tell people how to contact us?
Alrighty. To submit your feedback or connect with us, go to talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, where you can submit text or audio. Or you can call and leave us a voicemail, 216-232-6146. You can also send us an email, and our email address is picardcast@talkthroughmedia.com. Or you can post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts. And we don't know when our next episode will be out, but it'll be sometime. So no deadline.
Yeah.
We're probably going to do a season wrap up.
Yeah.
At some point in time.
Yeah. We'll get a round table together. Like we had talked about for the after we did a pre-season roundtable, so we'll do a post-season roundtable. Whether it's the same people on, I don't know yet. Imagine some of them will be back. Obviously, we will be there, but that'll probably come out in the next month or so, maybe. Support us. First of all, Picard Cast is our Twitter handle. And you can help support us by sharing when we post that stuff on Twitter and Facebook. Now, you can't share the stuff that we post in the Facebook group, because that's a private group, but we also post at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia when our episodes come out. So you can also write us a review there. So that would be helpful. And share those posts when they come out. Share us, yeah, I just said that. Subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. And while you're there, give us a rating or review. I also want to mention podchaser.com. That is also a place where you can rate and review our podcast and each episode as well. So I want to encourage that. Our next Patreon episode, we'll be discussing Star Trek Picard, The Last Best Hope. We have something very special planned for that. And we will discuss the book, much like we would discuss the TV show. So we're going to kind of do that, but we're also doing something else. So I can't really say everything, but we got some very special stuff planned for that. And that's at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. And we would like to thank our Patreon supporters, James Robbins, Lawrence Todd, Fred Petrie, Clint McCollum, Kyle McAdams, Kim Vogel, Brian Shiro, Christoph Leckleitner, Jeff Biaco, Lee Radke, Aaron Mays, Michael Carrier, Stephen Chambers, and our newest patron, Kevin Lyle. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
And I especially want to mention, again, if you are subscribed to us on the Star Trek Picard Cast feed, when we start up Star Trek Discovery podcast again, you would want to switch over to the Star Trek Discovery podcast feed. So these episodes are on both podcast feeds. That will be on the Discovery feed. At least that's what we're planning. So our next episode that we'll probably have will be covering The Last Best Hope. That'll be at least a portion of the Patreon episode. So we're going to give some of that to you listeners that don't subscribe to Patreon, but it won't be the whole thing. And the patrons will get it way ahead of everyone else. So it'll be an edited version. And then after that, a roundtable. So until then, I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
And Fred wants us to use.
And I'm Visual Feedback Fred.
Okay, we used it, all right? Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.